Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Mayor and Council of Princeton, New Jersey. It's July 22nd, 2024. Could we...
Recording in progress.
There we go. All right. Could we have the meeting statement, please?
Adequate notice of this meeting was provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, including the time, date, and location of the meeting. In addition, the agenda and all related materials were posted electronically and made available to the public on Princeton's meeting portal in advance of the meeting.
Thank you. Michelle's going to do the land acknowledgement.
We gather today on the land of the Lenni Lenape. As members of the Princeton community, we aspire to show appreciation, respect, and concern for all peoples and our environment. We honor the Lenape and other indigenous caretakers of these lands and waters, the elders who lived here before, the indigenous today, and the generations to come.
Thank you. We have roll call, please.
Ms. Perron-Lambros?
Here.
Ms. Niedergang?
Here.
Mr. Cohen? Ms. Sachs?
Here.
Ms. Fraga?
Here.
Mr. Newland?
Here.
Mayor Frida?
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you very much. If you'd like to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we have a number of proclamations, and yep.
Good evening. Proclamation, Office of the Mayor, Municipality of Princeton. A proclamation honoring Lily Hui on the occasion of her retirement. Whereas the Municipality of Princeton is proud to recognize... Lily, are you here? Oh, louder. I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name. Can anyone give me some guidance so I don't mangle it over and over?
Hugh?
Hugh.
Hugh.
Hugh. Okay, thank you. The Municipality of Princeton is proud to recognize Lily Hugh, purchasing agent in the Department of Finance, for her dedication to public service on the occasion of her retirement. And whereas Lily began her career with the Township of Princeton on September 1992 in the role of junior accountant, and whereas as the department evolved, in 1997, her responsibilities expanded and she took on the role of purchasing coordinator. And whereas in 2013, after displaying excellence in all aspects of her performance, Lily was promoted to purchasing agent. And whereas Lily has been passionate about fostering a connected workplace for staff, coordinating many memorable events, and teaching her co-workers the joys of playing mahjong during lunch and after hours. And whereas Lily has been a dedicated co-worker and a pillar of strength and warmth in the finance department, her generous spirit and genuine kindness has touched everyone she has worked with, making her an invaluable part of the Princeton team. And whereas Lily's retirement from the Municipality of Princeton will be effective August 1st, and whereas Lily has dedicated over 31 years to serving the Municipality of Princeton, and whereas Lily has served the community of Princeton with pride, and upon the occasion of her retirement is deserving of recognition and the highest commendation. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Eve Niedergang, on behalf of Mayor Frida, extend the municipality's humble expression of appreciation and sincerest congratulations to Lily Hui. We offer her our best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement.
Okay. Mia, you have the next one.
Sure. Edward Huber? Is he here?
There it is.
Great, okay. Hi. Whereas the Municipality of Princeton is proud to recognize Edward Huber, equipment operator in the Department of Public Works, for his dedication to public service on the occasion of his retirement. And whereas Edward began his career with the Township of Princeton in June of 1999 in the role of equipment operator, and whereas Edward has been a dedicated and exceptional employee, proving himself an invaluable asset to the municipality, and whereas Edward enjoys traveling with his wife in his RV and working on various home improvement projects. And whereas Edward's retirement from the municipality of Princeton will be effective August 1st, and whereas Edward has dedicated 25 years to serving the municipality of Princeton, and whereas Edward has served the community of Princeton with pride, and upon the occasion of his retirement is deserving of recognition and the highest commendation. Now therefore be it resolved that we, together with Mark Frieda, Mayor of Princeton, extend the municipality's humble expression of appreciation and sincerest congratulations to Edward Huber. We offer our best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement. Thank you, Edward.
Edward, we want to actually give you this. Okay. It's unusual to have 5 of these all happening at the same time, but that's the case tonight. Layton, I believe you're up next.
Good evening. Gives me great pleasure to read this proclamation from the office of the Mayor, Municipality of Princeton, a proclamation honoring Mr. John Pettinati on the occasion of his retirement. It reads as follows: whereas the Municipality of Princeton is proud to recognize John Pettinati, construction official in the Department of Construction, for his dedication to public service on the occasion of his retirement. And whereas John began his career with the Township of Princeton in February of 1987 in the role of building inspector. And whereas John subsequently took on the role of construction official, building subcode official in January of 2002. And whereas John's professionalism and pleasant demeanor was on display every day as he strived to assist applicants, no matter how big or small the project. The kindness he showed to his staff and co-workers was appreciated beyond measure. And whereas John will be enjoying his retirement, spending time with his family, especially his granddaughter, woodworking and tending to his property. And whereas John's retirement from the municipality of Princeton will be effective August 1st, and whereas John has dedicated over 27 years to serving the municipality of Princeton, and whereas John has served the community of Princeton with pride, and upon the occasion of his retirement is deserving of recognition and the highest commendation. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Layton Newell, on behalf of Mark Frieda, Mayor of Princeton, extend the municipality's humble expression of appreciation and sincerest congratulations to John Pettinati. We offer our best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement.
Yeah, John was unable to be with us tonight, but we'll get that to him. Leticia, you are next.
It gives me great honor to have the opportunity to read this proclamation honoring Lieutenant Benjamin Gehring on the occasion of his retirement. Whereas the municipality of Princeton is proud to recognize Benjamin Gehring, lieutenant in the police department, for his dedication to public service on the occasion of his retirement, and whereas Lieutenant Gehring began his career with the municipality of Princeton on April 3, 2000, in the role of patrol officer, and whereas Lieutenant Gehring served in various roles and bureaus of the police department, including as a member of the Community Action Team, DARE instructor, Traffic Safety Committee, Evidence Custodian, Mercer County Child Abduction Response Team, also known as CART, Terminal Agency Coordinator, TAG, NJ SARS Liaison, Counterterrorism Liaison, and Detective Bureau. And whereas in 2016, Lieutenant Gehring served as a task force officer with the Federal Bureau of Investigation Safe Streets Task Force. During this time, he oversaw and participated in the large-scale criminal and counterterrorism investigations. This included collaboration with multiple law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, ATF, MCPO, and several local police departments. And whereas Lieutenant Gehring was promoted to the rank of corporal in 2016 and served within the Patrol Bureau, he was then elevated to the rank of sergeant in 2017, serving as a supervisor within the Patrol Bureau. Later, he was designated as Detective Sergeant, overseeing the Detective Bureau. In 2021, Benjamin Gehring was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, where he served as the commander of the Traffic Safety Bureau, Special Events Coordinator, Body-worn Camera Coordinator, Records Coordinator, Strategic Planning Maintenance Coordinator, Court Liaison, and oversaw cell block and facility management. Lieutenant Gehring is a graduate of the prestigious New Jersey State Chiefs of Police Association Command and Leadership Program. He is also a recipient of several awards and commendations, including the Peter Hodge Valor Award. And whereas Benjamin's retirement from the municipality of Princeton will be effective August 1st, and whereas Benjamin has dedicated over 24 years to serving the municipality of Princeton, and whereas Benjamin has served the community of Princeton with pride, and upon the occasion of his retirement is deserving of recognition and the highest commendation. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Leticia Fraga, on behalf of Mark Frida, Mayor of Princeton, extend the municipality's humble expression of appreciation and sincerest congratulations to Benjamin Gehring. We offer our best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement.
Okay, one more. A proclamation honoring Chief Jonathan Bucari on the occasion of his retirement. Whereas the municipality of Princeton is proud to recognize Chief Jonathan Bucari, Chief of the Princeton Police Department, for his dedication to public service on the occasion of his retirement. And whereas Chief Bucari began his career with the municipality of Princeton in August of 1999 in the role of patrol officer. Whereas Chief Bucari worked for the Princeton Police Department for 25 years and held the title of patrol officer, detective, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, safe neighborhood sergeant, administrative lieutenant, patrol lieutenant, captain, and chief of police. Whereas Chief Bucari also served the department in the capacities of the field training commander, press information officer, internal affairs commander, K-9 unit supervisor, and criminal investigations bureau commander. And whereas Chief Bucari, as chief of the police, displayed transformational leadership that saw the diversity within the department expand, our community policing footprint grow, and our stakeholder involvement strengthen. And whereas Chief Bucari will be enjoying his retirement, spending time with his wife Andrea and 3 children, Jonathan, Joey, and Ryan. And whereas Chief Bucari's retirement from the municipality of Princeton will be effective August 1st. And whereas the chief has dedicated 25 years to serving the municipality of Princeton. Whereas Chief Bucari has served the municipality and the community with pride, and upon the occasion of his retirement is deeply deserving of recognition and the highest commendation. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mark Frieda, Mayor of Princeton, extend the municipality's humble expression of appreciation and sincerest congratulations to Jonathan Bucari. We offer our best wishes for a long, happy, and healthy retirement. Thank you, Chief. All right. Thank you all. I think it's always important that we express our thanks to people that have worked for the community for such a long period of time. Next up, we have approval of minutes. We have 5 sets of, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's just run through these one by one so we catch. All right. Minutes of the June 10th, 2024 meeting. Would someone like to move those? Thank you, David. Michelle's got the second. Any questions or comments, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
June 24th minutes, closed session minutes. Would someone, thank you, Leighton. Is there a second? Thank you, Leticia. Any question, comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
June 24th regular meeting minutes. Would someone move those? Thank you, David. Lee's got the second. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, closed session July 2nd. Would someone move those minutes? Thank you, Leighton. Michelle's got the second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
July 8th regular meeting minutes. Would someone, Eve, thank you. Would someone, thank you, Michelle's got the second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And just to go back, I'm sorry.
Mayor, just, I made a small correction to the minutes, which has already been made, but.
Right,
just-
and which set were I supposed to have you abstaining on? Were you, oh, is that, you
Oh,
just
it was
had the correction?
abstaining from June 10th.
June 10th. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Raina. June 10th, thank you. Glad you got that. Okay. And just if you're wondering why I stare down, I have a screen in front of me, and it's easier to see who's raising their hand to make a motion and second it if I look here than trying to twist my head. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay. And who, oh, there's, sorry. Captain, I didn't see you over there. I was looking over here. So we have Captain Tash here to give the police report for June 2024. Captain?
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just two quick things I want to highlight from the June Chiefs report. First is the Citizens Police Academy. It's our second academy that we saw graduate on June 9th. It's a program that we are going to continue throughout the years and actually expand on it a little bit. And the second thing I want to bring up, and I brought it up in the past before about our school crossings for this school year, is we did some minor tweaks to the way we did our school crossings and hired some extra guards. And the yearly stats are now completed for that. In last year's school year, the 2022-2023 school year, we had the police department, the officers, covered just under 2,000 school crossings for the year. And this year, 2023 and 2024 school year, we did a total of 220. So just those little tweaks saved thousands of man hours and let our officers stay on the road and handle stuff on the road instead of covering the school crossing. So I just wanted to highlight those two things, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Captain. Eve?
Thank you, Captain Tash. I want to, as a participant in the last Citizens Police Academy, I want to say what a great experience it was and how much I learned. So thank you for doing that, and I encourage anyone who is interested to join. It's fascinating and really a great learning experience. I have 2.5 questions. So, this is a real question. I've been tracking, the data in the calls for service, and I think we're finally back to pre-pandemic levels. In May of this year, there were 4,300 calls for service, which is several hundred above the norm. And I'm just wondering, maybe this is an anomaly, but if indeed the calls for service are going up that substantially, I hope the department is planning for this, because that's like a 10% increase in calls, which must be just countless people hours that need to follow up on those calls. So if you could comment a little bit on that and where you see that going.
Yeah, so it could be an anomaly, but if you look, we are trending upwards. A big part of that is that this year, one of our big initiatives was to increase our Traffic Safety Bureau. So I think you're going to see a higher call volume because we have 5 officers just dedicated to handling traffic complaints, where in the past we didn't have that high of a volume of officers. So just naturally, with more people in that unit, the call volume is going to increase. I think that's where the majority of the increase was.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that. Okay, this is the half question. So as one of the council members who serves on the Traffic Safety Committee, we've been trained to talk about not motor vehicle accidents, but motor vehicle crashes. An accident implying it couldn't be helped, and a crash implying somebody made a mistake. And I'm just wondering, but the police report still lists MVAs, motor vehicle accidents, and I'm wondering if that is terminology. It may be just semantics, but I'm wondering if that's terminology that can be changed, or are these state reporting categories and you can't do anything about that?
No, they are considered motor vehicle crashes. I think that's just something that was always in the report, but certainly something will change. It should fall under motor vehicle crash.
Okay, so, and here's the second question then. So, the 2019 to 2023 chart of accidents, are those full years, and then 2024 is just a half year, or are the numbers comparable? Okay, David is nodding his head like he knows that those are full years, and the 2024 numbers are half a year, in which case we are following the rest of the country in, absurd increases in motor vehicle crashes and bad behavior on drivers. So I just wanted to, these crashes have real-life consequences for everyone involved. So I'm just using this as an opportunity to throw out a plea to everyone to drive carefully, to think about what you're doing, and to think about the possible impact your mistake could have on other people. So that's it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Eve. Other questions for Captain Tash? Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to, next is the 2023 audit. And are we bringing Sandy in remotely? Okay. Can we tell? Yeah, thanks. You could tell. Sorry, we're telling our IT wizard in the back room to bring in our CFO and someone from the auditing firm.
But I'm not allowed to, for some reason, activate my video. So I'll start this kind of quickly, and I'll let Dave jump in. I just want to say this is our 9th audit report without any recommendations, and this is not something that we take lightly in finance. I'm extremely thankful for the finance staff and also for the staff in the other departments that help us to achieve this for this 9th year. So with that being said, I will turn it over to Dave.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, I'm sorry, let me just jump in for the audience. That was Sandy Webb, our CFO. We had a little technical glitch there, so when we were able to hear you, you had already started talking. So I just want to make sure people know who you are. Can you just introduce David so the audience knows who he is?
Absolutely. This is Dave Gannon. He is our registered municipal accountant. He has been doing this audit for, I think, about maybe 3 years now. And him and his staff, they do a phenomenal job for us, and we're just pleased to have them.
Okay.
Great. Good evening, everybody. As Sandy said, we receive a lot of cooperation from both her staff as well as a number of other employees in other departments to be able to complete the audit of the municipality. So we definitely appreciate that cooperation. Our audit lasts 3 to 4 weeks of time. So in addition to your employees, regular duties, they have to respond to our numerous requests, and they always do so with, great professionalism. We've issued an audit opinion that doesn't take any exceptions to any accounting practices that Princeton follows. We found that Princeton complies with all the reporting requirements of the Division of Local Government Services, which are requirements that are different than generally accepted accounting principles. So we've issued an unmodified opinion on the municipality's compliance with those regulations. And overall, just, we found that the financial records were in excellent condition. They required very minor modifications from what was presented to us. So overall, we feel that, the Sandy Webb and her staff do really an excellent job. The overall financial health of the municipality is very healthy. There's an adequate amounts of fund balance. Current fund balance at the end of 2023 was $22 million, which was an increase of $3.5 million from the prior year. So although the municipality used $8.75 million to balance its budget, several different revenue categories exceeded budget or prior year appropriation reserves lapsed, so that it would be able to, that it not only covered the 8.75 used in the budget, but built fund balance up another $3.5 million. It's also important to note in 2023 that the municipality utilized its second half of the ARPA funds to utilize in the budget of $2.9 million. Going forward in 2024 and in subsequent years, that's no longer available. Affordable housing utility had about $1.2 million of fund balance, a slight decrease from the prior year, but it also had $2.9 million of program reserves. The parking utility fund balance at the end of 2023 was $3.6 million, an increase of $100,000. And important to note that the utility was able to contribute $1.8 million towards the current fund budget for 2023. The 2023 tax collection rate was 98.92%. The tax collection rate has been at or above 99% for many years, so that the municipality has done a great job in that respect. The net debt of the municipality was $128 million, which equates to 1.36% of average equalized valuations. State statute allows up to 3.5%. So that the municipality is well below statutory limits on debt. In reality, the municipality has a remaining borrowing power of $202 million. In addition to a financial statement audit, we were also required to perform a federal and state single audit based on the level of funding received by the municipality. So in addition to a financial statement audit, we also had to do specific grant audits over the ARPA funds, the iBank program, and the DOT grants. We've tested internal controls and compliance. We've issued an unmodified opinion on compliance with those single audit requirements. And lastly, we do a number of tests of internal controls and compliance, and we found that there was no exceptions that we noted or violations of the state statute that require corrective action. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, David. Any council, any questions on the many, many, many pages of the audit that we all read? Okay. Seeing no questions, why don't we move to 24225, resolution of the Mayor and Council of Princeton accepting the 2023 audit and group affidavit. If someone would like to move that, Leighton's got moving it, David second. Again, any questions or comments?
Just a great thank you to Sandy and the staff.
Yes.
As always, thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Sandy, David, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is public comments for items not on the agenda. If anyone in the room or online has a comment for something that's not already on the agenda, this would be the time to either, if you're in the room, come up to the podium and make that comment, or if you're online, raise your hand. All right, I see one hand up on Zoom. Adam, if you could. Andrew, if you could just introduce yourself, name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Andrew Siegel from Paul Robeson Place. This is a item that was on the agenda, but that happened already. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize John Bucheri and Ben Gehring. I don't want to age anyone, but they both started on the force when I was, I think, 12 years old, and they were the cops that we used to see walking to school and biking to town and in the communities and really out there in the schools as was mentioned, part of the DARE program and things like that. And it was my distinct pleasure to come back to town to work at Hamilton Jewelers for my family business and to see that they were still here and to look at them as true partners, because that's what we look at them as. I think a lot of businesses look at the police force that way. And certainly these two individuals have been close friends to both my family, as well as our business and the business community at large, and also the general Princeton community at large. Their dedication to service is unmatched, and all the accolades that have been mentioned this evening are well-deserved, and the Siegel family and Hamilton Jewelers wishes them both a lovely retirement, and we hope they won't be strangers.
Thank you, Andrew. All right. Anyone else online? No one else in the room? Okay, we'll close that part of the meeting. All right, now we have two public hearings on ordinances. The first is ordinance 2024-29, an ordinance by the municipality of Princeton regulating parking on Valley Road and Hodge Road, and amending Chapter 19 of the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974, and Chapter 11 of the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. Is there a, I'm sorry, Leighton's got the motion, David's got the second. All right, we'll start with council. Questions, comments? Eve?
Just a quick question about timing. I know, Jim, if PSE&G does this, it's going to be done relatively soon. If they decline to do it, I would love to see implementation of the ordinance postponed until, like, there's no point in taking the parking away and then having 3 months go by before we, we put the striping in. So if there's a way to pair when the ordinance goes into effect, and maybe this is more a question for Trishka, is there a way to pair when this ordinance goes into effect with when the actual striping is done, rather than take away parking for no reason without putting the striping in?
If you don't mind, I'll answer the first part of that question. PSE&G plans to pave Hodge Road in the middle of August. So we're right on top of when they're going to be doing that. Valley Road will follow. I do not know exactly when. But it should be soon after that. The only holdup on Valley Road is that they have determined there are additional connections that need to be made for their gas main improvement project. They have indicated quite strongly that they're willing to do this. So I don't. If we don't have the ordinance in place now, the first step is to prohibit the parking. So that we can implement this. The second phase of this will be our own internal pavement striping program that we hope to get in front of council within a couple of months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, David and then Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to ask if Jim could address a little bit the extents of the parking removal on Valley Road, noticing that from Harris Road over to Mount Lucas, the parking is not being removed. So if you can explain the thinking behind that.
The area of parking that will remain in place is along the frontage of the Princeton Public Schools property, which includes Valley Road School, the Board of Education offices, Valley Road School building, where the boarding of education offices are, as well as the area in front of the sport fields. There was discussion with the school district about the need to continue to use that parking. Both the school district employees and municipal employees use that parking when the facilities that exist off-street are overcrowded. Particularly during the summer for the municipal employees, when we are asked to take our vehicles out of this parking lot to make room for the community to visit the pool. And during the school year, the school district needs those parking spaces. They have insufficient spaces behind the building where buses are parked. The choice of the bike network that we have made is to connect the shopping center through Valley Road to Harris Road, which is a bicycle boulevard. And Harris Road brings bicycle riders to Guyot and Henry, and then to Witherspoon Street and the Witherspoon-Jackson Neighborhood and Community Park School. At the other end of Valley Road near the shopping center, engineering is planning to make improvements to North Harrison Street that will include bicycle facilities that will be protected from the traffic. So we're planning on protected bike lanes, and that will then connect with Franklin Avenue and the bicycle network that then connects all of the schools together into one continuous loop. On top of that, we're adding bicycle lanes to Terhune Road between North Harrison Street and Grover Avenue as part of the Alice development and as part of our own project. And then that connects to Grover Avenue, which connects to Levitt, which is a bicycle boulevard. We see this as a critical link between facilities on one side of town and the other. We believe it works in terms of getting people from point A to point B in the safest manner possible.
Thanks. Just one follow-up question. I know that Valley Road is a little wider in that area where the parking is being retained. Is there potential, for instance, to have a bike lane going westbound, not have the one going eastbound, but maybe have the one going westbound continue on to Mount Lucas?
There is a potential for that. We can discuss that in I&O or traffic safety. We didn't see the need to do it at this stage. If there does seem to be community input, I hesitate to bring too much bicycle traffic to the intersection of Valley Road and Witherspoon Street, which is quite congested at certain times of the day. And I'd prefer that people feel more comfortable to go down Harris to Guyot and then come around. But point well taken. Okay.
If I'm trying to get to the municipal building, I might want to have that lane, so.
We can mark it as shared lane.
Thank you.
Michelle?
I just wanted to commend Jim and the entire team coming up with this idea to work at the same time as PSC&G is repaving and doing this with their striping program is a nice taxpayer savings. You know, it would be great to be able to just flip a switch and have the bike mobility plan implemented everywhere, but obviously we have to take one street at a time. So this is a really good step in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there other council comments or questions? All right, seeing none. Do we have any public comment or questions on this ordinance? Anybody online? All right, seeing no public comment, could we, oh, Dan, do you have a comment? Dan, when you come up, if you could just say your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
Dan Rappaport, 300 Bun Drive. At the present time, the idea of eliminating parking on most of Valley Road for a bike lane seems like an undesirable situation. I hope it's temporary. The shoulder is the width of a car, so you would have bicyclists going in both directions in the same bike lane. And then if you have a car going past them, that creates more stress for the bike riders. And so then the next step would be, well, put a line down the middle of the lane so it's clear who has which side of the bike lane. But if you've seen the bike lane on Princeton Pike, that's not very free of stress for most bicyclists, and I've seen very few bicyclists when I happen to be out in that direction on Princeton Pike, but that's what is going to happen if you do the next step. So the only way it can be feasible is if you take land on the other side of Valley Road, and which resident is going to voluntarily give up a chunk of their land to have a bike lane. So please think about it longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
May I clarify? We are not proposing a two-way bike lane, Dan. We're proposing bike lanes in both directions on each side of the road. 2 5-foot bike lanes and 2 10-foot motor vehicle lanes. There's 30 feet of pavement on Valley that can accommodate a bicycle lane in each direction. We're not going to put a two-way bike lane on one side of the road.
Is that wider than the Princeton Pike bike lane?
The Princeton Pike bike lane is not a bike lane, it's a 3-foot shoulder, and in my opinion, never should have been marked as a bike lane.
Okay. Thank you.
We're putting in 2 5-foot bike lanes on Valley Road on either side.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, just making sure no other public comment. All right, we'll close the public comment portion. And roll call vote, please.
Ms. Peron Lambros?
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang?
Yes.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Ms. Sachs?
Yes.
Ms. Fraga?
Yes.
Mr. Newland?
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Next up is ordinance 2024-30. Ordinance by the Municipality of Princeton, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, adopting the redevelopment plan for the Princeton Theological Seminary properties for the real properties designated as Block 35.01, lots 25 and 26, and Block 3601, lots 15, 16, and 17. Leticia's got the motion. Michelle's got the second. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the council, Steve Malenik, Greenbaum, Rose Smith, and Davis. I have served and continue to serve as your redevelopment counsel for the municipality. Here to my left is Jim Kyle, who's the redevelopment planner that the municipality has engaged, who has prepared the redevelopment plan that is the subject of your ordinance this evening. You introduced this ordinance a couple of weeks ago at your last council meeting. It was referred to the planning board, who held a meeting last Thursday. Mr. Kyle gave this presentation that he's going to give to this council as a courtesy, and the planning board considered the ordinance and the redevelopment plan annexed to it for master plan consistency, which was their charge under the local redevelopment and housing law, and came back with a unanimous vote that it did meet consistency with both the current master plan as well as the master plan from 1996. It returned that, as I'm sure you've all seen, via resolution from the planning board as well, with a couple of recommendations, which we will discuss. But I did just want to take a second to talk about the overall picture of redevelopment and to reorient. So this particular redevelopment plan concerns property that has been, we've discussed it as the Princeton Theological Seminary properties, which is an area that has been designated by the council way back in 2018. So 6 years ago, it was designated and found to qualify as an area in need of redevelopment. I'll talk closer. Since that time, there's been efforts to form a redevelopment plan, which is the next step in the redevelopment framework, which is before you today. Adoption of this or any other redevelopment plan is what's necessary to trigger the next steps in the redevelopment process, which is to identify and negotiate a redevelopment agreement with a prospective redeveloper that can be designated as such, who will then develop the property in accordance with both that redevelopment plan that's subject to your vote tonight, as well as the agreement which you would negotiate. They would still then have to go before the planning board for the same site plan approval they would if redevelopment were not part of the process. So generally, this is step 2 of those 4. Did we lose?
I didn't do anything.
Okay. Step 2 of the 4-step process. Step 1 being designation of the property, which we've done. Now it's adoption of the redevelopment plan, then redevelopment agreement, and then site plan. And at the site plan stage, it's identical to what any developer would face under your site plan ordinances. So at this point, I will turn it over to Mr. Kyle to give that courtesy presentation to the council.
Good evening, everyone. James Kyle with Kyle McManus Associates in Hopewell. I'm a licensed professional planner, licensed by the state. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I'm special redevelopment planner for the municipality. So this is a redevelopment plan. It's an ordinance adopting the redevelopment plan for Princeton Theological Seminaries. The ordinance is 2024-30. The redevelopment plan itself was dated July 1st, prepared by our office.
Steve kind of went over a bit of this, but again, this process was commenced in June of 2018, where Mayor and Council authorized the Planning Board to study the properties. LRK had prepared a preliminary investigation report at that time, and the Planning Board held a hearing in September of 2018 where they recommended that Mayor and Council designate this an area in need of redevelopment, that the criteria under the redevelopment law were met, and Mayor and Council designated it as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment on October 8th, 2018. Subsequent to that, there was a redevelopment process that started and did not conclude, and then we started another process. We had some community roundtables in March of 2023 and May of 2023. There we had presented some planning information to the public. We invited discussion and some comments, and then there was a third community roundtable held in October of 2023, at which time the contract purchaser, Herring Properties, presented conceptual plans for the property. The public and everyone was finally able to see the proposal for that. So over the last 8 months or so, we've been working on a redevelopment plan. We carefully evaluated all the impacts of development of the property. We consulted extensively with municipal staff, also had discussions with the contract purchaser, and then Mayor and Council introduced Ordinance 2024 on July 10th. And as Steve said, the Planning Board conducted their statutory review on July 18th of 2024, which was last Thursday. So the redevelopment plan itself is applicable to Block 3501, lots 25 and 26. Those are on the west side of Hibben Road, outlined in red on the screen. And then also Block 3601, lots 15, 16, and 17, which are on the east side of Hibben Road. Lot 15 fronts on Edge Hill Street. It's 4.84 acres in total, and it's the former tenant Roberts Whiteley campus of the Princeton Theological Seminary. The way this redevelopment plan is written, it would amend the zoning map to show this redevelopment area, and it would supersede the underlying E4B zoning that's currently in place. The goals of the redevelopment plan, we drew a lot from the public process that was ongoing for the master plan at the time, so we utilized a lot of the information from community forums, also the comments that we received at the community roundtables, and that was utilize smart growth principles to achieve better planning outcomes for the community, provide higher density and close proximity to transit in the downtown, and this fed into the Princeton Climate Action Plan, trying to reduce auto dependence and support greenhouse gas reductions. That was 2019, I believe, that plan. Provide for new multifamily residential within walking distance of downtown and the Princeton campus, increase the supply of affordable housing on the west side of the downtown, create a unified network of outdoor spaces and pedestrian-friendly streetscapes within the redevelopment plan area, and then enhance the view shed along Stockton Street, which, as we all know, is one of the important gateways, several important gateways into the downtown. We discussed it at the planning board meeting on Thursday night. This is a very critical view as you come in, but we've also heard that there are a lot of safety issues at these intersections as a result of, where the buildings were positioned previously, blocking some site views. But that green space that existed there was an important thing, although it wasn't utilized by the public. So an important part of this redevelopment plan is to open that up and have that be accessible to the public, but also improve safety and sight lines at the intersections with Stockton Street. And that's a goal, improve visibility and enhance safety for drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. Through the community roundtables, we did hear a lot of safety concerns with cut-through traffic on these streets. So we want to make sure that anything that's going on with this redevelopment plan isn't making that any worse and hopefully improves it. Provide enhanced on-site stormwater management through the use of green infrastructure and reduce runoff volumes flowing to adjacent properties. At the time, there really was no stormwater management features to speak of on this property. So one of the goals is to improve some of those flooding conditions that we heard about at the community roundtable. So we're going to provide some standards that will hopefully address all of that. We want to provide a good transition from the neighboring single-family residences through appropriate setbacks. A good feature of this redevelopment plan is we're requiring inset or step backs above the third floor to help reduce the visual mass at the property lines. Variation in building mass, you've all seen from the concept plans, we kind of have a variety of conditions that are proposed here that we think adequately address that. And then really employing high quality architectural treatment and materials through the redevelopment process. And that's really unique to this rather than just rezoning a property. Going the redevelopment route allows us more control over those types of things. promote high-quality design for new multifamily structures as well as outdoor spaces, and then provide opportunity for an enhanced tax rateable that will benefit the larger Princeton community. So the permitted uses, the plan permits multifamily buildings on Block 3501, lots 25 and 26, that's on the west side of Hibben, and then Block 3601, lots 16 and 17 on the east side. Lot 15 permits detached single-family dwellings, so there's one existing single-family dwelling at 92 Stockton Street that will remain, and the plan permits 2 additional detached single-family dwellings on Lot 15. So a total of 238 units, multifamily units are permitted. That includes a minimum set aside of 20% of affordable housing units. So that would be a total of 48 affordable housing units that will be realized through this redevelopment plan. As far as bulk standards, maximum building coverage is at 50% and maximum impervious coverage overall is at 75%. There's a variety of setbacks that are proposed here. They're based on the conceptual plan that we've all reviewed and found to be reasonable. So the setbacks are a little more detailed than usual. We gave different treatment to different abutting properties depending on proximity and things like that. Maximum building height, 4 stories and 56 feet measured from average grade. That's defined as 4 corner average grade, but no single facade of any building can be taller than 50 feet from the adjacent finished grade. Step backs are required above the 3rd stories. That's facing existing single-family homes to the south, west, or east, and then also to Edge Hill Street. And if you saw the redevelopment plan, figures 17, 18, and 19 illustrate those step back requirements along with the setbacks. Maximum building height for the single-family units that are permitted on Lot 15 is 3 stories and 40 feet. And the minimum required parking ratio is 1.1 spaces per unit. There is also a requirement to comply with all the EV parking requirements as well. The design criteria, let's talk first about access. So for lots 25 and 26, that has to be from Hibben Road. That driveway intersection has to be at least 125 feet south of Stockton Street in order to provide adequate separation at the intersection. For lots 16 and 17, it has to be from Stockton Street. It's envisioned there'll be a central circulation drive, which is a requirement of the plan that intersects Stockton Street and provides access to underground parking for the buildings on both the east and west side of that. For lots 15 and access for lot 15 is through the central circulation drive on 16 and 17. It can be from Edge Hill Street, but only for the single-family houses. So there will be no primary access to the plan area from Edge Hill Street. It also stipulates that it can be emergency access as well in case emergency services needs additional access from the east. Parking is required to be under the buildings with the exception of 1 surface lot that is permitted on lot 15. That is primarily to serve the single-family homes, but there can be a couple of units from the building on the east side that can utilize that surface parking lot. There are 2 primary open spaces that are required under the plan. One along Stockton Street, it's not as large as the green that was there previously, but it is of generous proportions. And then also along Hibben, fronting on the main building, an open space area, plaza or square is required there, and the redevelopment plan does specify minimum dimensions for those open spaces. Lighting requirements are per our existing code. There is a requirement for preservation of existing trees that are within the right-of-way of all of the bounding streets. And there is also language in there that requires replacement of trees that are diseased, dying, have died. We're going to complete the rhythm of street trees that is on all of the bounding roadways. There are also a number of buffering requirements for parking areas, landscaping standards, things of that nature as well. Sustainability features are encouraged, and as we noted at the planning board meeting last Thursday, the new checklist that this body adopted recently is going to be required to be completed at the time of site plan approval. So that's another way that the planning board will be able to ensure that a lot of those sustainability features will be part of this development. And there's also a requirement for a multi-use path. So the sidewalks that are along our streets, Hibben and Edge Hill, have to be repaired, maintained. But along Stockton Street, we're envisioning a multi-use path that will be wider. I think the minimum dimension we ended up with was about 10 feet, so that envisions folks can bike, folks can walk, and eventually, hopefully, that'll continue down Stockton and into the downtown. So as far as the function that the planning board engaged in last Thursday. So of course, mayor and council introduced this ordinance. It was referred, and under the requirements of the redevelopment law, it's section 7E, and that's NJSA 40A 12A-7E. Also, the municipal land use law, section 26, requires that the planning board be referred the document. The main difference between the MLUL requirement and the redevelopment law is the redevelopment law gives 45 days, the MLUL 35 days. So we were well within those boundaries. The board is charged with finding if there are any provisions of the redevelopment plan that are inconsistent with the municipal master plan. And the redevelopment law at section 7D actually requires that all provisions of the redevelopment plan shall be either substantially consistent with the municipal master plan or designed to effectuate the master plan. So that was the goal that we strive for. The planning board conducted their review. I made a similar presentation that evening, and they concluded that there are no provisions of the redevelopment plan as written that are inconsistent with either the 2023 master plan or the 1996 master plan. There were two recommendations Steve mentioned that came out of that, and the first was to address tree preservation on site. As I said, all the street trees that exist within the right-of-way have to be preserved, but all the trees that are on site, that was a concern of the planning board. So we recommend adding a sentence at the end of section VG4 of the plan. So it's a one-sentence addition that reads, any redevelopment agreement subject to this redevelopment plan shall include a tree preservation plan as an exhibit. The redevelopment plan does require submission of an inventory of all trees, sizes, condition with the planning board application, so that'll be used in conjunction to come up with the tree preservation plan. The second recommendation, there were no plan changes that were required, but there was a concern that we be mindful of the amount of grading that occurs on the property. So that will solely be a site plan issue for the planning board to deal with at the time an application is submitted, but they did want to just make note of that. And that concludes, Mayor. I'm happy to answer any questions that you or the council may have.
Let me ask you one question.
Sure.
The ordinance that we have in our package includes or does not include that recommended additional sentence?
Mayor, it does not include. If you were to vote tonight in the affirmative, you could make it with the recommended change. I will have to update the ordinance anyway because the draft you have in your package is what was introduced, referring it to the planning board. The final resolution, or ordinance rather, would reflect that the planning board did meet on the 18th and did find it consistent with the master plan. So if you were to make a motion tonight to approve it, you could do it with or without the added recommendation.
Thank you. All right, let's start up with council questions and comments, and then we'll go to the public. Anybody? David.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I mean, Jim did a great job touching on a lot of the sustainability features, but I do know that some of the letters to the editor that have appeared regarding the project have questioned the sustainability and the, you know, how this redevelopment plan intersects with our new green building checklist. So I spent today going through the green building checklist, and out of 30 items on the checklist, the plan actually checks off 20 of them currently, where we already know that it's complying with those. The other 10 are mostly to be determined later on at the site plan stage. And I just wanted to touch in a little bit of detail on some of the, what I think are the really key sustainability features. One item on the checklist talks about having a constrained or clearly delineated area of disturbance. And so, you know, the fact that this site, essentially this plan disturbs the entire site. And so there's sort of a sense, well, how can that be a limited disturbance? And the 2 points I wanted to make, one is that this is a redevelopment site. So the whole site is already disturbed. And for that reason, that particular checklist item isn't all that relevant. But even beyond that, that criteria has to be taken into consideration with the goals for the site. And so the reality is that we're getting a lot of housing, a lot of missing middle housing, a lot of affordable housing on this site. And it's a compact development as a result. And so disturbing the whole site is not inconsistent, because we don't have to disturb other sites to get this quantity of housing scattered around town. So that was one point I wanted to make. I also wanted to talk a little bit about stormwater, because one of the really neat features of this plan is with the underground parking, which we're pursuing partly for aesthetic reasons and to, not have these unsightly surface lots, but also under the state's stormwater regulations, when you have motor vehicle surfaces, you have pavement that cars drive on, there's a high bar in terms of improving the stormwater quality. And the reality is this plan reduces the motor vehicle surfaces by 50%, from an acre to half an acre. And so that's a really positive thing from a stormwater management standpoint. And in fact, in replacing those impervious surfaces, we're putting in permeable pavement, and that actually treats the runoff and removes 80% of suspended solids, where the requirement is actually only to remove 50%. So we are exceeding the stormwater requirements with the stormwater improvements that are being put in place on the site. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on a little bit was the trees. We're still working with the applicant on the tree preservation plan that Mr. Kyle mentioned. But reviewing the sort of current draft of that tree preservation plan, in addition to preserving all of the street trees, we're preserving currently about 10 to 15% of the viable trees that are on the property, ones that are not elm trees or, diseased and needing to come down. So just wanted to make clear that we have been focused on preserving what trees we can, and we're accomplishing some of that.
Thank you, David. Other council, Leticia.
Thank you, Mayor. So thank you for your presentation. What I wanted to touch on or comment on is one of the components that you included in your presentation, and that would be how this development would increase our affordable housing stock. I can say that as of this year, it has now been 25 years since I first came to Princeton. And in my lifetime, Princeton is now the longest I've ever lived in any one place. And without a doubt, Princeton is a wonderful place to live. I especially appreciate that we take great pride in our diversity. I also take great pride that as a community and as members of the governing body, we don't just talk the talk, we turn our words into actions. We acknowledge and understand that racially equitable, mixed income communities are stronger, richer, and more vibrant places to live and work. I think that we could all agree that housing is the foundation for health and well-being, and that affordable housing allows people to live with dignity, quality of life, and with basic access to opportunity for generations to come. I firmly believe that in advancing policies that promote the creation of more affordable housing, this commitment goes beyond simply meeting mandates. It reflects our fundamental responsibility to ensure that everyone in our community has access to safe, affordable homes. It is not just a legal requirement, but a moral imperative to support our neighbors and foster a more inclusive and equitable society. And because of that, I'm in favor of moving forward with adopting the ordinance that would before us and doing what is right for the betterment of all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other council comments or questions at this point? Michelle?
Thank you. And thank you to Jim, Steve, Justin, the staff. It's a lot of work to get here. Thank you for your presentation. So I'd like to address smart growth. There's been some, can you hear me? Can you hear me like this? Yes. Maybe I'm looking, okay, so I won't look down, I'll try and, yeah. Okay, so I'd like to address the goal of smart growth. And if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read the definition of smart growth. It means reinvesting in America's downtowns and main streets, the economic engines of big cities and rural towns alike. Smart growth means creating homes for families of all income levels alongside one another in locations where daily needs are close by. Smart growth means diversifying our transportation system so Americans have a choice in how they get around. Smart growth means building streets that are safe for people walking, biking, or using any sort of assistive device, as well as driving. And smart growth means protecting open space for generations to come. Above all, it's about helping every town and city become a more economically prosperous, socially equitable, and environmentally sustainable place to live, helping everyone flourish. So what I'd like to address, first of all, is that I've read and heard that this isn't smart growth because it's not walkable. It's too far. I live a block away, so I'm a block further from the seminary. And I always figure it takes me about 15 minutes to walk my dog because her favorite walk is to walk to Heinz Plaza. Don't ask me why. Has something to do with the farmer's market, I think. Anyway, so I measured it, I timed it. So walking my dog in a leisurely pace from the entrance of the seminary to Palmer Square is 12 minutes. That's leisurely, and Luna takes her time. So I have to say that to me, if that's not walkable, I don't know what is. And then as far as not having anything to walk to, and I don't know if everyone's been to the Central Business District, but I'm going to take off a few things that are very walkable things to do. First of all, there's a Japanese grocer, an Italian market, a seafood market, a specialty gourmet shop, and a weekly farmer's market. Several bakeries, multiple pharmacies, several convenience stores, a stationery store, gift shops, wine and liquor stores. And then there's a range of food from casual dining to full-service restaurants that cover almost every cuisine in the world. I think anyone would be hard-pressed to find another concentration, a variety of restaurants and retail anywhere else in the state that's within a few blocks and easy to walk to. Not to mention, and this is really what blows you away, is the cultural richness. Our library, the University Art Museum, which will open again next year, McCarter, and our gem of a garden theater, and then of course the university itself with their multiple cultural and sports events. So that's going to services. Then another smart growth feature and transit-oriented development people talk about is the proximity to the Dinky, which generously I'd say is a 15-minute walk, if not a 5-minute bike ride. So this is another factor to add to the site, this accessibility to transportation to New York, Philly. So also in addition to the New Jersey transit options we have from train and bus, we're working together on our municipal bus system. We have recently commissioned a study just a couple council meetings ago with Nelson Nygaard to enhance our bus system, and we're working very closely with the university's Tiger Transit. We plan to launch a more robust system next year. The university has made a commitment to contribute $1.5 million towards this goal, and we have another $800,000 committed from our Avalon Bay and Wynn developments in the shopping center area. We also have a grant for 2 electric buses that will be delivered next year that will be the backbone of our system. Obviously tonight we're talking about increasing our bike infrastructure with more bike lanes, shared use paths, encouraging people to bike, and walk. And there's one more point that I want to make, because this is a really also important piece. In our master plan, the study stated that 26,000 jobs are in town where people commute in, 88.5, which means that over 23,000 people drive into town every day from somewhere else. Workers who live in town reduce traffic. It also helps to solve a big problem of hiring and retention for our local businesses. And I'll share that just a few months ago, the Experience Princeton Special Improvement District held a business forum with federal and state legislators to hear about challenges to our business community. The number one concern they had was a lack of housing in town. Having an opportunity for both affordable and market rate housing that's close, walking distance, is a big plus. Helping to address this will help businesses grow, continue to attract and retain businesses, and create vitality and vibrancy in a robust mix of retail. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments or questions? Okay, great. Let's get to public comment. So if you want to come up to the podium and you state your name, your address, the 3-minute timer will go on. And I really don't like to have to say to people, hey, your time's up, so kind of watch the timer. But if I have to, I will, and I do that with all due respect. So please start us off.
Charles Skinner, 288 Western Way. And first, thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I just want to mention a couple of things at the beginning. 20% affordable means 80% unaffordable. So let's not forget that. And also, if you're working for tips in one of the restaurants downtown, are you really going to be able to afford even the affordable part of this development? Anyway, the main point is, I'm sure you'll recall that the 2023 Princeton Master Plan was a contentious process with serious objections about overdevelopment coming from the residents. At the time, one of the responses was that even though there was a range specified in the master plan, that did not mean that the development would be built to the maximum in that range. At the planning board meeting a few days ago, there were around 15 Princeton residents who voiced serious concerns about the ordinance, specifically about traffic safety coming from the additional 264 residential cars that this plan would entail, about the density of housing that exceeds other multifamily developments, the placement of 238 units, double the development at the shopping center, in the middle of an entirely residential district, the creation of a heat island, buildings towering over adjacent properties, and the impact on Princeton schools. In most cases, these concerns were simply unanswered by the planning board. The impact on schools was specifically disallowed from consideration by the planning board. So I would urge the council to ask for a transcript of the planning board hearing, because it was recorded on Zoom, and ask the planning board for a line-by-line written response to the residents' concerns. This, together with a transcript of tonight's session, should be made public on the municipal website. Only then will there be a real dialogue between the council, planning board, and the Princeton residents. There are other developments in the works. Princeton is certainly under pressure from state requirements on affordable housing and from developers who see an easy way to monetize Princeton's historic charm. The views of the Princeton residents should be respected from an early stage in the planning process and documented. I'm talking about the round tables from last year. From the record of the public meetings, both the planning board and the council are seen to disrespect the views of the Princeton residents and be in the thrall of developers who are bent on monetizing Princeton's historic character for their own financial gain. Thank you.
Great timing. Thank you very much. Okay. There has to be other people that want to comment. Please come on up Again, state your name and address and just watch the timer. Thank you.
My name is Jane McLennan. I live at 6 Edge Hill Street in Princeton. Because we're held to 3 minutes, I want to notice the historic preservation goals from the master plan rather than reading them. Our values as a nation have rarely been debated more than they have been lately. What are our rights as citizens? What is our future as a country? The town of Princeton played a distinctive role in answering many of those seminal questions and in crafting the documents that have preserved our nation's foundational principles. If you look up Princeton, New Jersey online, almost any site you go to will mention two defining characteristics, both of which attract a multitude of visitors and revenue to the town each year. Its world-class institutions and Princeton's historical background. Princeton survived the Battle of Princeton. Now it feels as if we're fighting for the battle for Princeton. The most recent attack has come in the form of this redevelopment proposal for a project to be built on the former tenant Roberts Whiteley property that has received the approval of both council and the planning board. The project, if built, constitutes an assault on one of the 4 principal historic districts in Princeton. The plans, calling for 4-story buildings, 238 units, capable of housing approximately 500 residents, would overwhelm the historic districts on either side of the oversized complex. The number of residents would be more than 11.5 times the total number of residents on Hibben and Edge Hill, all on 4.8 acres. With the exception of the barracks, the oldest residential property in Princeton, built in 1680, the remainder of the homes on Edge Hill were constructed in the early 1800s. The sheer physical force of large-scale construction coupled with noise, air, and light pollution would compromise early 19th century homes on Edge Hill, several designed by Charles Stedman, and many of the century-old Rolf Bowen designed homes on Hibben. The overall size of the projected project is completely out of keeping with the surrounding neighborhood. The height of the buildings, towering 56 feet over the immediate environs, guarantees a lack of privacy for residents who live next to and downhill from the project. Thoughtful town planning that considers the scale, architecture, and impact on historical districts is crucial. These districts are valuable not only for their beauty and character, but also for their connection to the town's and nation's history. Princeton is still a town and is valued for what it is.
Thank you.
Any attempt
Excuse
at
me.
urbanization feels like an exercise of poor stewardship
with all respect.
on the part of the
Just for everybody, as we near zero, I am going to say, are you almost done? Allow me to say that to you. I'm not trying to interrupt you. I'm just trying to make
thank
sure
you. I
everybody
will
sticks to
finish
the
my
3
last
minutes.
sentence, okay?
Yeah, sure, go
Princeton
ahead.
is still a town and is valued for what it is. Any attempt at urbanization feels like an exercise of poor stewardship on the part of town officials.
Thank you. Okay, please. There's a lot of you here. There has to be other people that want to speak. Again, name, address, and...
Hello, Seth Melman, 113 Adams Drive, Princeton, Riverside neighborhood. I'm just curious, for my own information and for the public, what is affordable housing? Can you give us a dollar amount so we know what we're talking about when you say affordable?
I don't know if I know the dollar limits off the top of my head, but...
So the dollar amounts, there's different thresholds under the law of what's considered moderate income housing, low income housing, and very low income housing. And they're all set at a percentage of what is set by the government at that time to be the income caps for each of those levels. The rents for each of those would be capped at 30% of what those income levels would be.
Okay, so how do we have any idea? In other words, if a property in downtown, a condo or a townhouse, is selling for $2.5 million, How do we know when we say affordable that somebody, as the gentleman mentioned earlier, who's working for tips or a small wage, how do we know they can afford to live there?
The income levels are set regionally, not based on just this municipality. They're set on a more regional basis. So Princeton would be in the same region as, you know, Trenton or any other areas in Mercer County, and it's all equalized to that region. And
Okay,
it's,
so
and the income levels change every year. I couldn't tell you what it is right now for Mercer County right at the second.
okay, so you can't give us any idea of what an affordable unit might cost.
These are rentals.
It's on what?
The HUD website.
Yeah.
So it's on the hub.
It's publicly available. I just don't have that.
And are they, and last question, if it says affordable housing, are they all at one level? Like you said, there's a...
No, the law requires, if this plan proposes a maximum of 238 units, if the 238 were to be constructed, 48 of them would have to be affordable, and the law requires that those 48 be split among very low, low, and moderate, and also split among studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can I just add, we have plenty of affordable housing in town already where people are living and working there. So it's not theoretical. You know, the numbers that you want can be arrived at if you're interested in specifically.
So how do I go to the HUD website to get those numbers, or where do I go to get an affordable price?
We have an affordable housing coordinator, so on our website, you could just go to that office and they could give you the exact number. Sorry, I should have thought of...
Thank you.
Yep. Next up.
I think you've heard some of my numbers by some of the other speakers, but bear with me. I've attended every meeting.
I'm sorry, again.
Oh,
name,
sorry.
address, and
Mike Head, Hibben Road. I've attended every meeting on the subject of the TRW redevelopment since 2018. At every stage, there have been reassurances that the process was going to result in a better outcome than what a generic developer could build as of right. The ANR would avoid that terrible fate because the council would control the process and decide what will be built. This will provide the community with input and many additional benefits that a regular developer would not provide. Subsequently, letters were written by the council stating that the immediate neighbours would have a meaningful say in what was built. None of that has happened. Multiple requests for meetings have been refused. No input has been provided by those same residents. Today's meeting, announced during the July 4th holiday week, is being done with unseemly haste at a time when many people are out of town. Why? 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 What we now have before us is a massive 4-story construction, filling every inch of the site. It's more than double the as-of-right size permitted. The density of 54 units per acre is the highest in Princeton. It will house over 260 cars and will tower some 60 feet above neighboring residential properties. It's built on a hill with a 17-foot drop. We keep talking about level grade. Every tree will be removed as though it's a Hoboken parking lot. And to add to the insult, the developer is requesting a pilot tax break so he will not need to contribute to the schools for the additional 150 children likely to be living there. As Route 206 passes through Princeton, along its length from Lawrenceville to Hillsborough, there is nothing that comes close to the height, size, and scale of this proposed building. Built on a hill, entirely within a residential district and abutting one of our most important historic areas. There is no view enhancement. This is somehow supposedly consistent with the master plan, even though, as was suggested the other night by one of the supporters of this initiative, that the neighbours should take one for the team. Even the supporters know in their hearts this is not going to be good. We've already agreed as a town building 1,000 market rate units. Who voted for this? It is not a welcome at an important gateway. It is a dated 70s throwback that is no longer appropriate for the changing climate. It will cause environmental harm to the area, and it does not need to be this way. We would appreciate if you kept your promises and engaged with the neighbours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, who's next? And just the name and address helps us for when we do the minutes.
My name is Vatsala Bhardwaj, and actually I'm on 130 Stockton Street. I'm directly impacted by this proposed construction. And basically, to my mind, it was sold as something that would represent the entryway into Princeton. But the construction, the massive, densely populated construction to me, it does not represent that at all. I actually travel into New York every day using the public transit, and all along the New Jersey Transit railways, you see the same kind of construction, cookie cutter, developments all along from Secaucus, and the new one coming up right at Princeton Junction train station. So there's nothing novel or unique architecturally about this proposed development. And moreover, it's so densely populated that, it will cause a lot of downstream problems regarding traffic, schooling, and of course cutting down the trees, etc. But I walk to the Dinky every day, and sometimes I walk faster than the traffic, some segments of the road, because the traffic's so backed up. Imagine another 200 cars coming out from that small areas onto the Stockton Street. So you have to do a traffic study, And also I do not like it. I do not like this development at all. It's going to be 25 or 20 feet from the border of my property. My property is not a historic property, but yes, part of it was built in 1700s. So it is a historically significant property. And I personally believe that this development would destroy the fabric of the existing, not society, the planning that exists within that Princeton area. It's too much, too big, too dense, and ill thought. Something small on a smaller scale, which would look at the needs of the surrounding neighbors, listen to them, would work better for everyone. Of course, you have your 20% whatever housing, but it doesn't fit.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen O'Connell. I am another neighbor who has had no input into this redevelopment plan. I live on Hibben Road. We were told by this council 3 years ago that there would be a collaboration with the neighbors on this redevelopment and that the result would be a mutually acceptable plan for all parties. After receiving that letter of promise from your attorney, we asked repeatedly to hold those meetings. We were first told it was too soon, then we were ignored for years. After that, after we discovered the ordinance would be introduced, we were told we were too late. We worked independently for 3 years, crafting and refining a reasonable position, understanding there would be compromise. Never did we think we would be pushed to the side and our, quote, collaboration would be a 3-minute comment period just before your vote. We can't help but feel that we were intentionally shut out. In our heart, everyone knows this redevelopment is simply too huge and too damaging environmentally. We've all seen the Alice and know how big it is. Well, the TRW redevelopment at 54 units per acre is more than double the density of the Alice. This redevelopment at possibly 76 feet high, will rip apart and destroy the natural park-like environment which currently graces the tenant Roberts property. Clear cutting it is entirely unnecessary unless you wish to build something that is completely incompatible with the adjacent neighborhood, with Princeton in general, in terms of density, mass, scale, and character. The master plan never envisioned this. It is also in direct opposition to your green development checklist at its most significant level. I disagree with you on that, David. This plan provides for tree preservation and new trees, but the conceptual plan does not show which trees will be removed or threatened by the project. And now we're hearing only 10 to 15% of the trees will remain. The planning board has encouraged you to pay keen attention to preserving as many healthy, mature trees as possible, and this concept design isn't doing it. Before you vote, can you insist that the developer ensures irreplaceable trees remain per the planning board's recommendation? They also requested that you be especially mindful of the regrading plans, which could impact trees and topsoil as well. Most notable is the absence of a stormwater management plan. A key concern for those of us downhill from TRW on Hibben, Edge Hill, and Mercer is stormwater management. Princeton has a strong stormwater ordinance, and we were promised a robust solution with full stormwater measures as if the site was never developed, but this plan does not address any of the stormwater elements. This should be resolved before a vote is taken. We live in fear of the trees being slaughtered as soon as the redeveloper agreement is signed. Like many in Princeton, our neighbors already have flooding in their basement, and this will make it demonstrably worse. Can you insist on retaining some of the natural buffer and give us a little breathing room between the huge buildings and our homes?
I need you to finish.
We also have concerns with building height, balconies, traffic, and outdoor garbage dumpsters, but I am running out of time. Yes, we truly need affordable housing. There is no argument there.
Okay.
But until the government...
Thank you. Thank you. Folks, I hate doing that, but I got to be fair. I can't have people go over and hold other people to the 3 minutes. Who's next, please?
Hi, Janet Stern, Monroe Lane. I am on the Shade Tree Commission, but I am speaking as a private citizen tonight because the Shade Tree Commission didn't learn about this item being on the agenda until it was too late for us to approve a public comment for tonight's meeting. So speaking only for myself then, some factors I hope will be considered when preparing the tree preservation plan. A thorough walkthrough in March of 2022 revealed those trees that were possibly failing, they were removed. The rest are thus presumed to be healthy trees, some over 100 feet tall. Removing these healthy trees to accommodate development is alarming and counter to public well-being. Just last week, the NJDEP released a groundbreaking plan to increase canopy so as to protect the health and welfare of residents from the effects of extreme heat. Indeed, sections of this plan tonight refer to preserving existing trees within the site where possible, and I'm glad to see that. But we've heard obfuscating phrases before, like where feasible, to the maximum extent possible, optimization, sustainability, and they're meaningless. Most of the trees come down anyway. The terms smart growth and preserving canopy are now painfully ironic. Smart growth is an official term, I know, but given the unbearable temperatures and the cooling that we know shade trees provide, how can chopping down even one single healthy mature tree be smart? Planting in the Emerald Necklace and conducting a town-wide inventory to see where trees are needed are worthwhile efforts, but there is only a 50% survival rate of newly planted trees in their first 5 years. And planting in surrounding areas does not counteract the damage to and the fracturing of our urban forest, which is Princeton's bigger problem now. If we really want to preserve the canopy, we need to stop allowing widespread removal of trees by developers. And please do not replicate the mistakes of the Alice, where it is now at least 10 degrees hotter walking along Terhune Road. The nearly 400 trees removed on that site included 39 to create a linear park, a park ironically right next to Grover Park. Shade trees are sacrosanct now, and they should never be removed to create an open space or a lawn. Rather, existing healthy mature trees must be the core around which the open space is created. Otherwise, people won't even be able to use these parks because of the temperatures. This is an urgent request to convey to the developer that redesigning so as to preserve all the trees could put him or her at the forefront of preserving a municipality's best weapon against climate change instead of exacerbating climate crises. And then I have a question. Is it okay to ask? No? Okay.
No, we're done. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Who's?
Hi, Joe Butler, 18 Hibben Road. This proposed development is unlike anything else in Princeton. It is the only one that is entirely surrounded by R1 zoning, that is built on two sides of a long existing local road, that creates a dangerous mid-block crossing, that has a density at least twice the density of any complex of this type, that is built on a block with a 35-foot drop from top to bottom, that destroys the privacy of neighbors through a rooftop terrace and pool, that creates a uniquely dangerous intersection on an already busy road. The previous drive on Stockton was exit only. This new cul-de-sac will carry more traffic than would be allowed on a public street. This neighborhood is not walkable to any daily needs, not the grocery, the pharmacy, schools, medical care, or even the train. 100% of the adults on Hibben have a car. We like to walk, but we need to drive. The proposed new parking on Hibben represents an over 300% increase in the drivers on Hibben, and that is before we talk about the traffic that will circulate because of the dangerous intersection created on Stockton. We already have speed bumps on both Hibben and Edge Hill. I can't imagine what the plan will be. Figure 12, the concept plan is wrong. It misidentifies north, and I'd hope you take a look at it. It also crops and shifts the map in such a way that it disguises the enormous curve on Stockton that creates limited sight lines. It also disguises the deficient intersection at Hibben. It is not a 90-degree angle, so the idea of a second crosswalk just feet from the first crosswalk as cars are trying to exit Stockton safely while navigating a difficult turn is a recipe for tragedy. The parking requirement is far below the recommended level and far below what is needed. Even if the residents work from home or walk to Princeton University, studies show that doesn't reduce auto traffic. In fact, it expands rush hour. On page 19, the declaration that there's no parking on Edge Hill, Hibben, or Stockton is also wrong, unless you plan to strip our parking along with our privacy. The plan is terrible for the environment. Removal of old-growth trees in the urban canopy will result in ever-increasing temperatures in town. New Jersey is heating up faster than any other state in the Northeast, and Princeton is in the top 8 communities heating fastest. We need to update our thinking on resiliency. Transportation can improve, but once you take down these trees and put in impervious surface, that's generations of damage. Further, this is not an educational use, and therefore the correct comparison for the underlying zoning is not E4, but the R3 bulk standards. The cherry picking of the term urban from the historic preservation element is misleading. That 30-year-old term is a vestige of the old borough township.
Joe.
I just want to tell you that the element actually uses the word compact village quality also to describe the inner gateway of Mercer and Stockton. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, who's next?
I will speak, sorry. My name is Rakesh Kumar. I live right opposite TRW. It's 5 Campbellton Road, at the corner of Campbellton and Stockton Road. And we moved here about 8 years ago, by the way. And we just find this to be a terrible idea. This whole idea of low-income housing is such a socialist, communist idea, by the way, that The starting point is wrong. And by the way, the whole area, we are destroying the history. By the way, I come from India. And we love the area because of the history of the area. We are destroying, and our generations will suffer from this thing because some developer, we're trying to sell, we are trying to generate revenue. It's unclear for who. We will impact the school district. The schools are going to be overpopulated. The traffic on the street, Stockton is terrible already during the school time. It will go a lot worse. It's just unclear to me who are we building these houses for. Princeton is not cheap. It is not going to be cheaper. By the way, I've lived in very low income houses all over the world. It's not important that everyone lives in Princeton. And so it's unclear to me why we are overbuilding Princeton, destroying the history, impacting the school district. I'm on the school board of Princeton Charter School as well, by the way. Right? It just makes no sense. I think we are destroying the history in front of our eyes. It's just a terrible idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, who's next?
Is this phone someone's?
I'm sorry?
What's that? Is someone's phone here?
Oh.
I don't want to be accused. Just want to be clear. So good evening. My name is Rob Simon. I'm an attorney with Herald Law in Warren, New Jersey. I'm here this evening on behalf of an organization called Princeton Coalition for Responsible Development. As many, if not all of you are aware, earlier today my office filed what is known as a protest petition pursuant to NJSA 40:55D-63 of the Municipal Land Use Law. By virtue of that protest petition, that any adoption of the proposed ordinance 2024-30 cannot be except by a favorable vote of 2/3 of all the members of the governing body of the municipality, and therefore the protest petition applies respectfully with regard to the ordinance before you this evening. And what's interesting, what is intended by protest petitions that, by the way, have been around for over 80 years in New Jersey, is that it provides an opportunity where the legislator felt it was important to protect affected property owners from unwanted or ill-considered change. And that's language from the Supreme Court, that's language from the Appellate Division. So it's a responsibility to be taken very, very seriously when a protest petition is filed challenging a proposed ordinance. In turn, it provides an opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue, not just providing members of the public with 3 minutes and then tell them to go sit down, but rather an opportunity to engage in learning about concerns about the community to achieve and arrive at intelligent development. Intelligent development includes smart growth. Intelligent development includes affordable housing. But diversity and smart growth principles should not be and cannot be at the expense of safety, the appropriate use of land, and not permanently damaging neighborhoods. Conversely, Princeton's third round obligation, as you know, has already been met. And I've never seen, and I don't respectfully believe it's appropriate, for a redevelopment plan that is supposed to be Princeton's plan to alleviate blight in a community under the local redevelopment and housing law, to add 46 units of affordable housing when they don't need to. And the kicker is that, of course, that results in the 80% of additional unit count that's going to be detrimental to this community. This proposed ordinance does not provide a suitable site. There's numerous violations of the Section 7 of the Redevelopment and Housing Law. You don't have a zoning map. You don't provide for a traffic study. It provides for improved traffic and planning. There's no study that has been conducted. There has been no relationship to the municipal land use law that's been
I need
cited.
you to wrap up.
Okay. Note my objection also to the time limitation. It's contrary to New Jersey law.
Okay, thank you. All right, I know we have a number of people on Zoom that want to speak also, but I'll just, one more shot. Anybody in the room right away, or?
Felicia Spitz, 5 Hazlitt Avenue. I'm speaking here tonight. I'd like for everyone to hold their applause. I'm speaking here in favor of the development, and I want to give a little history lesson because I'm new to Princeton, and I want to point out a couple things that I observed when I moved to New Jersey and to Princeton. So in 1984, when I moved to New Jersey, the population of the combined borough and township was just under 26,000 people. Today, it's just around 31,000 people. That means in the intervening 40 years, we have allowed 150 people, not homes, to move to our town. That's not great. In that same 40-year time period, if you bought a home that was $300,000 in 1984, it's now worth close to 1.7 million people. So we limited the number of people who could benefit from that increase, which, as a Democrat, hurts me. What it turns out is it's more expensive to own that home, so taxes went up, utilities went up, the cost of living has gone up. And what did that do? It drove out a lot of members of our community. Most of them were not white, wealthy people. So our African American population has decreased from about 20% to about 7% in this same 40-year period. When I moved here 10 years ago, there were 3+ story buildings on this lot that housed over 100 units of students for Princeton Theological Seminary. I was approached to sign a petition in 2018 to block this growth from a private owner on their private property to replace their housing. And I thought to myself, what kind of town is Princeton that we're going to push out divinity students? But okay, here we are. And I said at the time to my neighbor who approached me, here's my concern. The seminary does not have the deep pockets of the university. They're not going to be able to fight a sustained legal battle. So it's going to cost, my time is interrupted, so it's going to cost, and they're going to wind up having to sell. So what we're going to wind up with is not divinity housing, but something that a developer comes in and builds. I'm here tonight really grateful that the developer that has come in to build is also a Princeton resident. I'm confident that his love of this community has dictated his efforts and his work, and I hope that you support this much-needed development and support this. We do need more housing here. We do need to let more people in, and we need to stop creating a caste system that supports only wealthy white people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeffrey Oakman, 164 Valley Road. I can't see the time. It's possible to get the time back up.
Adam, can we get the time up on the big screen? I can see it. You got, but there you go.
All right, thanks. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of this project, but I'm just here to say that as a national matter, as a state matter, and as a local matter, we need more housing. We need affordable housing, is true, and the fourth round is coming, it's upon us, but we need more housing of all kinds. And we need it especially in places like Princeton where people have access to the kind of quality of life, services, and amenities that we all enjoy here. And so, to our credit, I mean, this town is actually building housing. You know, we're building housing near the shopping center, and in many, many neighborhoods of this town, we're building housing. I happen to live 2 blocks from the housing around the shopping center, and you know what? I think it's great. I think it's positive. But most of these neighborhoods where we're building the housing do not even have the proximity to transit and to the downtown amenities and the downtown jobs that this project we're talking about today do. And that's, you know, as Councilwoman Lambros said, that is smart growth. And smart growth is smart policy. It's how we're going to solve our housing crisis, and I think that that's a critical point here. Frankly, and I'll end on this, I think I expect that most planners who aren't being paid to say otherwise would agree that this is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Ed Truselli. I am the Executive Director of Princeton Community Housing, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization. I'm speaking as a private citizen. I just wanted to point out the gentleman that was up here prior to the two folks who spoke about affordable housing. Part of the package tonight for the meeting has a letter from Fair Share Housing. And that letter points out that the town is being proactive in addressing this property because they're developable land has changed since the last judgment by Fair Share Housing. So the town is actually being proactive in avoiding possible litigation by taking on this redevelopment, I should say. And to echo the prior two speakers, we do need more affordable housing, but we're also doing it because it's an obligation, a constitutional obligation, and we're fulfilling that obligation by doing this project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to get to some of the people that are on Zoom, just because we've let a lot of people here talk. Hey, Adam, can we bring in the first person on Zoom?
Hi. Am I on?
Jenny, you're on. If you could just kick off with your name and address. Thank you.
Okay. This is, I'm Jenny Crummiller, and I live in Library Place. First, I need to state that I was a council member who approved the A&R designation. At that time, I thought we were planning for seminary students and that the seminary was going to offer the town additional benefits as part of the developer's agreement. I also felt that there was a realistic probability that the resulting project would not be an out-of-place behemoth. The new plan is different. It's created to maximize revenue, and it provides only the minimum required number of affordable units. Instead of being creative, this plan is very similar to all the other new rental apartment buildings in Princeton. And I will say this is not the fault of the developer, because business is business, and unless it's a not-for-profit developer, it has to be that way. We all know why nobody is building townhouses or for-sale condos, but that's what A&Rs and developers agreements are for in high-value areas. They allow for creativity and the benefits for the town. Townhouses with tiny yards and a door to the outside would provide for a type of housing that is currently not being built, and it's what families with children or pets or both want. We know that from our survey. And what about facilitating ownership? Are rental apartments actually considered missing middle? These new residents will never own their own equity, never build their own equity, and will live with rent increases year after year. Would we want that for our own family members? Why do we ignore the master plan's mandate to provide diverse housing types? And why only the minimum required number of affordable units? I don't understand all the praise for this plan. I really don't. We all know that the rents will go as high as possible, which if it's anything like the other apartment buildings, it will only be for the wealthy. I especially don't understand the praise from housing advocates. Only a minuscule number of very low income units, a small percentage of the affordable units, will be available to couples or roommates making minimum wage. A single person making minimum wage won't be able to afford even the lowest of rents. If you were a housing advocate, I would think you would be advocating for rent control, not for unaffordable apartment buildings with the minimum required set aside. You should be calling for more public housing. If we can afford to purchase green space, we can afford property for housing. I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe where housing advocates are praising this project and council members magically believe it will be affordable when the evidence is quite the opposite. This is all to say, I hope you will take a step back and take a second look at this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Adam, can we bring in who's ever next? Okay. Dozer?
Right there. Can you all hear me?
Yes. Sean,
Can
I
you
guess
see?
it is.
I don't know if you can see me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we can hear you. If you could just introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Okay, I can barely hear you, but we'll get through. I'm Sean Wilentz. I live at 7 Hedgehill Street. I've got to say right away that the idea that if you're opposed to this project, you're somehow opposed to affordable housing is obscene. It's wrong. That is not the case. We'd happily have in this neighborhood, 7 Hedgehill Street, much more affordable housing than we have. The problem is this project. It's this project that's wrong, not affordable housing. And when you throw in the fact that there's going to be a sunsetting of the affordable housing according to this project inside of 30 years, at 30 years, then the whole thing is a joke, in my view. Now, it seems to me that it's been transparent, really. The lip service, the double talk about the master plan, the euphemisms, the deception, the bad faith that's been attached to this project from the very beginning, going back to 2018. We've been told that there was going to be a project in our neighborhood which sounded great, for a high density in conjunction with smart growth, with low income or affordable housing, a wonderful idea. And then we're presented with this massive, gargantuan complex based on outdated ideas of planning that's going to turn 206 into a traffic nightmare, a hellish traffic nightmare, and is going to absolutely obliterate the scale of one of Princeton's most historic districts. And when we raise this, we're called selfish. Really? We were told, we asked, why such a massive project? Why so big? And we were told that the developer couldn't afford to do it without 240 units. That's the reason that the developer can't afford it? I mean, look, we elect you, Mr. Mayor, and on the council to protect us, not just this neighborhood, but the entire municipality from this kind of brutal treatment, even by a hometown boy. Anybody who knows the history, going back, as I lived through it, through New York City, of Jane Jacobs's fight with the battle against Robert Moses, anyone who lived through the destruction of the old Penn Station in New York City, anybody who knows anything about that, let alone lived through it, knows what's afoot. It's about something else. It's about misguided planning, and it's about good old-fashioned greed. With all of that said, I ask the council, I plead with the council, that when the accounting is done, and there will be an accounting, which side are you on here? Are you on the side of the pursuit of growth that has Princeton's historical character in mind, in line with the master plan,
Sean,
I might add?
I need you to end.
I'll end. Or are you standing with the developers? That's the choice. I hope you make the right one.
Thank you. Okay, can we bring in the next person? Dozier?
Hello, my name is Dozier Hammond. I live at 87 Lee Avenue. And I feel that this project is something that I'm not sure about, to be honest with you. It seems like it might be somewhat too large. I don't think it's way too large. I do think we should preserve as many trees as possible. I do wish we could provide more than 20% affordable housing. That's very hard to do. I'd love to see rent control in Princeton, but I don't think that's going to happen right away. I do think that you have to be careful about this. I hope you have taken in neighborhood input, but I also feel it's very important that we do need more housing in Princeton, and we need more affordable housing in Princeton. So this is kind of a mixed message, but I do feel that the size of it may be a bit too large. I do think we could preserve the natural landscape and the trees as much as possible. I'm sure we're going to have to cut down some, but the fewest as possible. 10 to 15% seems like not that many preserved. But I do hope we go forward with some housing there, maybe not quite at this size, but we should maximize the amount of affordable housing we can. We do need more housing in Princeton. We do need more affordable housing in Princeton. Again, whether this is the exact right scale, I am not so sure. but I do feel that it is important to develop this project. As someone said, there was already housing there for the seminary. There were large buildings there before. There can be somewhat large buildings there. I just hope they do not overwhelm the landscape, but I do think it should be developed in a smart and intelligent way, and we've heard differing views on exactly what that is tonight. Again, a mixed message, but thank you to the council for looking at this, but I hope you've given the full consideration to it from all the aspects that have been put forward, both pro and con, for this development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll be brief. My name is Abigail Whitney Wachter. I live at 142 Hodge Road. And I just wanted to go on record to state that I fear that the failure of the planning board, council, and entire master plan to consider the impact of this development and others on our school systems is negligent and promises to be the downfall of the town that you claim to want to help prosper. Overcrowded and underfunded schools will ultimately drive taxpayers to leave Princeton, and that will impact the vitality of the downtown that we all love. Thus, I beg you to reconsider adding housing at the expense of Princeton residents and the vitality of Princeton itself. Since I do have an extra moment, I also just want to point out that tonight, the first ordinance that we looked at it had to do with removing parking from Hodge Road to add a bike lane, which is awesome. And 3 years ago, I was on the phone arguing against adding more parking to Hodge Road, which would have completely eliminated the option of having a bike lane. So I think that if you listen to the input of residents, you might find that we actually find solutions that don't bring up such dramatic opposition. And I really encourage everyone to do that and work together, council and residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Carol?
Hi, yeah, Carol Golden, 575 Snowden Lane. The last speaker used the word drama or dramatic, and that's sort of how I'm feeling about this. The drama and the dramatic comments of people opposing this development and redevelopment, it seems incommensurate with what's happening here. We do need housing in Princeton. The world needs more housing. More people need to have access to be able to live the great lives that so many of us are able to live in Princeton. The fact that only 20% will be affordable is the way the game is played. Developers will not be able to afford or make the profit that they need to make in a capitalist society in order to make these to provide the housing we need. So, yes, rent control would be great. There are many other things that people like me and other affordable housing advocates do and fight for all the time. But this is a project that that will achieve a lot of what we need in this town in terms of housing. And it's really hard to not hear the opponents' views coming across as they just don't like it. In fact, a couple of speakers just said that. I just don't like it. It's too big and I don't like it. I don't understand how that is how we're supposed to understand that. We have policies, we have laws that require a certain number of affordable housing units, but we also have an obligation as people with so much privilege in this town to allow others to enjoy those privileges. And this project, with its walkability to town and to the train, is undeniable. I don't understand how that gets even argued. I just want to make sure that folks know that I support the project. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I'm just going to finish the people on Zoom, sorry.
I'm waiting to speak.
Yeah, no problem. Well, there's three more. Caleb?
Hi, everyone. My name is Caleb Firing, and I live at 463 Jefferson Road. I'm part of a family that's been in Princeton for 3 generations now, and we've always had a big value on the history of Princeton and the vibrancy here. And, the way we see it, in order to preserve that, you need to prevent Princeton from becoming cookie cutter. And that's exactly what's been happening over the last, years, with the fact that Princeton is now unaffordable to so many people that could make our community that much more rich and diverse. And the way that we prevent Princeton from becoming a cookie cutter town is through proceeding with projects exactly like this one, which create the opportunity for affordable housing for those who need it most. I think this is a excellent site. It's incredibly walkable. The distance from this site to Jam and Creps is the same distance as Jam and Creps to Tipple and Rose, two great businesses. And I don't think anyone would consider a walk along Nassau Street to not be walkable. So the way I see it, this is an opportunity to provide the type of housing that makes Princeton rich and vibrant and continues the history of our town, which is being a welcoming place to new immigrants. That's how my family first came here 3 generations ago. And to echo the sentiments of others who have spoken tonight, I implore those voting tonight to proceed with the project. And I could not be more excited to see what comes about here if the developer is given an opportunity. Certainly the renderings look beautiful, and it looks like it's going to be an extension of the seminary, the university, and a lot of the architectural features that do make this neighborhood historic and a wonderful place to live for both the current residents and hopefully future people who will get to join and enjoy Princeton like my family did 3 generations ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Hi, I'm actually Nate Myers here on Chris's Zoom. I'm his son. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So I'd like to say hello. I'm Nathan Myers. I just said I'm a lifetime Princeton resident who has attended the Princeton school system K through 12, and I'm actually a rising freshman at Princeton University. I live on Prospect Avenue in a single-family detached home. I wasn't really originally planning to speak tonight, but I kind of feel obliged after hearing a lot of the commentary. So my first and most potent point is that if we do not accept this tasteful, well-thought-out project in which local developers have worked in good faith with the town, we stand at risk of having the property sold to a bigger, non-local developer that could easily utilize builder's remedy litigation and our failure to keep up with state affordable housing requirements to build something much larger, double or triple the size, and not nearly as tasteful. I think it would be foolish to reject this proposal just for that reason alone. I also find myself compelled to discuss many of the complaints voiced here this evening. I think we can be better than this. It's our privilege to live in this town. It shouldn't just be ours. I find fighting wholesale against affordable housing projects in our town to be kind of an accidentally selfish act. And I stress accidentally. It's knocking down the ladder behind us after we've climbed it. It's keeping all the benefits of our town to ourselves. I implore Princeton residents, and many already do, to see this development not as a liability and a threat, but instead as a source of opportunity for 200 new people to benefit from the aspects of our town that we value so strongly, and even better, for people of lower incomes to live the American dream and be welcomed into a prosperous town, which will and must grow. That is the nature, as many have said tonight, of like society and a capitalist system. We're going to grow, and it's just how it has to be. I think doing it intelligently is our choice, and this is a project that will allow us to do this. I would also like to say I'm kind of disappointed by the use of climate change as an excuse not to build density. It doesn't really make sense to me. People exist. The people moving to these buildings exist they will need to live somewhere and fundamentally produce carbon wherever they are. I think allowing us to regulate how and where that is happening in like a well thought out green building is a huge plus. And also, lastly, regarding the concerns about the strain on school districts, everyone in these buildings will be paying taxes. I think that's kind of a ridiculous argument. I have attended these school districts in Princeton, and they've been excellent, even as our town has grown. And I think they can only benefit from having more people. And I think it's an enormous way to just bring more opportunity and the American dream to more people. I think Princeton. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Nick?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Tidemizio. I live at 219 Nassau Street. So I just wanted to start by saying this country is in a housing crisis, and it's time we started acting like it. I'm very concerned about where we're going as a society where instead of addressing homelessness's root causes, municipalities across the country now have free rein to punish those who are already suffering per the Supreme Court's recent ruling. I'm not saying Princeton is going to do this, but we're all collectively going to have to work on this problem as a country. We're failing to support our most vulnerable citizens, and I believe it is our moral obligation to help those in need. It is clear now more than ever that to tackle this crisis, we must urgently build more housing and all types of housing, not just affordable housing. Neighbors are so focused on factors like traffic and neighborhood character that they forget about the benefits of having new, diverse people in our communities. It is people that make this community great, and there are so many people who work here who want to live here so badly. The conditions of some rentals in town are abysmal, and they are kept this way by landlords because there is simply no competition. Renters are told you can put up with it or move out. In Princeton, we have the opportunity to make smart, thoughtful decisions now, and I believe that has been happening through this process. The longer we wait, the longer we are kicking the can down the road towards these actual housing monstrosities that people tonight have been speaking of. This project is not one of those. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say it could be much, much worse. I also wanted to just respond real quick. Someone had said that they saw a lot of this type of housing along NJ Transit, and that's on purpose. That's the smart growth model. If you live near public transit, you rely less on cars, and then you create more walkable communities. It's kind of the whole model that the country is going towards. But in conclusion, I just want to repeat that the housing crisis is worsening. The competition for market rate rentals are decreasing, housing instability is rising, and homelessness is now punishable. Without immediate sustained action, more families are going to face homelessness. We must act now to ensure everyone has a home. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're back to folks in this room. Please come on up.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Donna Holmquist. I'm the CEO and founder of Preferred Planning Group. We are a multidisciplinary urban planning firm based in Montvale, New Jersey. I stand before you this evening as the planner retained by the Princeton Coalition for Responsible Development, and I was told to limit my remarks and conclusions to 3 minutes. I have looked at all the information, zoning ordinance, redevelopment plan, etc., and I offer these comments to you for consideration. My question regarding tonight's public hearing is this: is tonight merely a rubber stamp for a developer's dream project, or what it should be, a genuine opportunity for council to address neighborhood concerns by rethinking the proposed redevelopment plan? My review of the 2023 Master Plan and REACTS indicates that the land use plan element has no prescribed density or intensity of use for the multifamily residential designation encompassing this site. Moreover, the multifamily classification is not unique to this site, and there is no concept plan in the document for the redevelopment. The document contains no rationale or explanation for the excessive density of 50 units per acre in the redevelopment plan. Meanwhile, the document acknowledges the site as a, quote, large tract with, quote, transformational redevelopment potential. seemingly out of nowhere, a full-blown concept plan with 238 units and specific regulations springs forth after the adoption of the master plan and REX. Certainly, if this concept had been part of the development of the document, there would have been substantial neighborhood pushback. The redevelopment plan in its current iteration is contrary to the MLUL purposes of planning regarding appropriate density, adequate light, air, and open space, and it completely fails to promote the general welfare by its glaring incompatibility with the surrounding area. The cross-sections on page 25 of the plan illustrate in a deliberately simplistic manner how out of scale the project is. The setbacks, excessive height with exceptions for garage levels and rooftop appurtenances raise the allowed building height well above the height listed. There has been no assessment of shadow impacts, no context-sensitive rendering or blending with the neighborhood. The plan lacks uniform setbacks, has insufficient buffers, and refers to individual parcels. Why is this 5-acre site acknowledged as transformational, not regulated as one integrated site with one set of standards applicable to the entire tract? Perhaps because it may not be redeveloped by one entity, but rather treated as pieces to be spun off for different entities. The approach will not achieve the best result for the community, but it may create a windfall for the developer. The MLUL requires consideration to the character of each district. That is entirely absent from this redevelopment plan. Most significantly, I call attention to
I
statutory
need you to wrap up.
deficiencies in the redevelopment plan. Those deficiencies relate
You
to
did
resident relocation, EV locations, zoning map amendment. Please pause and craft a collaborative plan respectful of Princeton, the community at large, and the surrounding residents. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the room? There's another hand up on Zoom. I'm going to jump there. I'm sorry, did you come on up? Oh, no, you already, sorry, we're doing one each. Is there anybody else that hasn't spoken yet? Sure. Again, name, address, and watch the timer.
Good evening. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight. My name is Sylvana Nazaro Clark. I live on Lot 14, which is 34 Edge Hill Street. I am sort of taken back by this whole process. Frankly, I engaged with the seminary because of my location of my lot several years ago when they were planning on their redevelopment. The architect was in my backyard, and we were discussing the plans and with Shane and with everybody there, and it seemed very collaborative from my point of view. It did not go through because neighbors on Library Place lawyered up, and it fell through for many reasons. And now we're in this place right now. I'm sad to say that a year ago, I, in collaboration, actually, on my behalf, the seminary tried to have a fence put up between myself, my house, and the neighboring house because I had made that request. I was told that we couldn't do it because it didn't meet the historic guidelines because of the sight lines to the home. And then I see the magnitude of this project, and it gives me pause, especially because I haven't been engaged at all. When the seminary was pulled down a couple years ago, my house shook, literally. It was scary. I'm more worried about my safety and the safety of my family. I will also tell you that my daughter was almost hit by a car on Edge Hill Street. I was almost hit by a car on Stockton. The traffic is tremendous. And I will tell you that trying to walk downtown, it's lovely, I agree, but it's not totally safe. So I ask that you think about traffic calming systems. I ask you to think about the process in terms of engaging neighbors. I have very intelligent neighbors. I'm an educator. I work nights and weekends. I work very hard, and please don't make assumptions about me about being privileged, because I'm not in certain ways. But I am very lucky to be in that neighborhood because I have neighbors that care. And we care about Princeton. I was born and raised in this town, and I moved back here because I believe in the history and the community of Princeton. And I really hope that you all think about that in this decision. And I hope that you don't rush this decision, because I do know, as an educator and as a leader of a school, that any decision rushed is not a good decision. You're hearing a lot of really upset community members from different sides, and I appreciate that. I know that every issue there's different perspectives, but I can tell you firsthand, my location, I'm really worried about my own well-being as a hardship to my family in terms of the magnitude of this development, and I wish the developer would engage with me and my family. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a couple hands up on Zoom, so let's jump back over there. All right. Roger, if you could introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Roger Panay. I'm from 28 Constitution Hill. I just wanted to focus on the socioeconomic benefits of the project and what it will bring to our community. Diverse housing opportunities, quality housing opportunities are very scarce, and providing quality housing for a diverse group of people in our community is something that we should strive to obtain. I think the infrastructure that will be created as part of the development will upgrade the system in the area. But I think really important is really job creation and the economic benefits, both short term and long term, for local businesses as well as professionals that will benefit from development. I think being born and raised in Princeton and having come back here, a lot of people that I've grown up with or that have been in the community are no longer here, and that's just a sign that our community does lack housing opportunities. And I commend the council on their vision and again the process that started in 2018, and there's still a long way to go, but I commend them on being transparent and including the community in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have one more. Sarah?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say I was also not planning on speaking.
Sarah,
but,
I'm sorry. Could you just say your name and address and then start?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Sorry. It's Sarah Callahan. I'm 57 Elm Road. Okay. So what? I was also not planning on speaking, but having heard so much sort of pontification on theoretical issues and social movements and national crises, I feel the need to say on behalf of my neighbors that I firmly believe that those opposed to this development are not opposed in general to development or affordable housing. That seemed to be implied in a lot of, pro arguments, and it's just, I think, frankly offensive. You can look at a lot of folks' voting records. A lot of it is public. I think this is a very accepting and reasonable community. I've personally worked for the city of New York for 10 years and on behalf of it, doing real estate and economic development for another 3. So, I mean, I think a lot of us have had roles like that and are, reasonable people. And I just think there's no need to make this anything more than a logistical and traffic nightmare that it will be. It is not about politics, and it could be, but it's not. And it's certainly not about a national homelessness crisis. I think it is simply and clearly in opposition to a lack of collaboration in a process and a far too dense, logistically kind of infeasible, stormwater generating, traffic confounding development that, the current plan says that it will be. And as many have said, I think there could be a plan that would work very well. And there are plenty of people who want to make this happen and want to make it in a good way for our neighborhood. There is a line of traffic in front of my house from, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. with just cars that are idling, like pollution I mean, it is wild. Like Elm Road takes so long to be able to turn onto, and this is just going to add so much more to that. And anyway, I think developing it would be great, and I just think that this particular plan is a little bit too much for what our neighborhood can handle. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, please.
Hi, Patrick McDonald, 17 Hibben Road. I just want to agree with the last caller. The neighbors are not against affordable housing. The neighbors are not against having new buildings on the TRDW property. We just wanted to be part of this. We are the ones most affected by your decision tonight, and we've asked for 3 years to be part of it. You had your lawyer write us a letter saying we would be part of it, and we're not. You've talked to the developer and his team for 3 years, and the people most affected by this, your constituents, get 3 stinking minutes. It's just not fair and undemocratic, and I hope you find it in your hearts to put this on pause so we could do it right. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room that hasn't spoken that wants to speak?
Yes, thank you. Joe Gornacha, 545 Mercer Road. I just want to make a couple of comments on the sustainability concept of this project. I really don't think that this site is necessarily all that walkable. I heard a couple of things from the developer. While in the vicinity of the development, you're going to have beautiful sidewalks and the like, he made a comment that he hopes that beyond his development that there will be upgrades to get people in and out of town. So there will be a lien on the town to upgrade its infrastructure to get people from the development into downtown, down to the Dinky. The sidewalks in this town, I do think, need to be upgraded in terms of thinking in terms of a walkable community. This part of town, of course, is two important arteries into town. You got Mercer Road, where I live, and 206. And of course, there's going to be some traffic impact. Again, yes, we're not against sustainable, we're not against affordable housing. I do think it's simply the scale of this project that needs to be reevaluated to be more compatible with not only the local community, but even the concept of sustainability. Princeton's going to have to get, by the way, from a walkable, downtown Princeton is not an everyday shopping experience. You got to get out to Route 1 to do all your shopping. This is unlike the development, the sustainable development at the Princeton Shopping Center that's goal, that people walk out and they got everything right at their beck and call. But here, you got to get in a car, or Princeton wants to pony up some nice electric buses to send people out to the shopping center. Great. That's going to have to be a plan that the town has to consider when it thinks about sustainability. It isn't just this developer is going to take care of his own little area, but Princeton's going to have to pick up the tab for getting people beyond that footprint. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Hendricks Davis, 232 John Street. I have to give a couple of disclosures here. I am a former planning board member from years ago. I'm also a 2-time graduate of Princeton Seminary. I do have a bias, but I'm not speaking on their behalf tonight. But I think maybe by looking at the seminary and what it has done over the past few years, the town of Princeton and the residents might learn something about making an assessment of its history and the impact of its history on generations following the seminary undertook an assessment of its participation in slavery and has done some remarkable things to move forward. The thing I want to say is that I am a resident of 232 John Street, so you have my address now, and I've been there for 41 years. I've been in Princeton for 50 years, and I've been through a lot of redevelopment. I describe myself now as a PIMBY. You know what a NIMBY is? A PIMBY is please, yes, in my backyard. I've had development and redevelopment going all around me over the past 30 years. First with projects right on John Street. My own project was a redevelopment project through the Witherspoon Jackson Development Corporation, and then with Stanworth and Merrick, and then with the hospital redevelopment site, and on and on and on. And many of the arguments that I'm hearing tonight are the same exact arguments against redevelopment that were presented in all of those redevelopment projects. And the outcome of those redevelopment projects has been tremendously positive. And I think that's what's going to happen with this. Yes, you might want to look at the scale of it a bit, but if the planning board has approved it at that scale, I would say build, baby, build. Build, baby, build, because there is a tremendous need for it here. And make yourself a PIMBY instead of a NIMBY.
Thank you. Anybody else in there? Oh.
My name is Sheldon Sturgis. I'm a co-founder of an organization called Princeton Future. And I just want to turn to my neighbors and my friends around Edge Hill and say, we've been holding open meetings for 2.5 years on the future of this town, and you are all invited with public to come and express your points of view. I have a book of 120 pages of exactly what everyone said at these meetings, with pictures of people who came to speak. You were very welcome to come. And I would just like to say that the master plan and the seminary development are very much in keeping with all the people that came to our open meetings, publicly held, led by professional planners who know stuff, including Ed over there. That's all I want to say. Many thanks.
Thank you. All right, I know we have another hand up on Zoom, so we'll jump back there for a minute. Caroline?
Hi, thank you. My name's Caroline Cleaves. I live at 7 Edge Hill Street. And I want to start by saying that it feels very clear to me that this redevelopment proposal gives a lot of lip service to the master plan, and myself and many of my neighbors attended that meeting late last week. And, you know, I think there's some things that were said at that meeting that need to be repeated. And first of all, no one in this neighborhood was ever sought out by the developer for a community conversation. When we were talking to the theological seminary, they convened numerous meetings. And once this property was, slated for redevelopment with a commercial property developer, we were cut out of those conversations altogether. And with all due respect to Walkable Princeton, attending a community meeting on walkability is not the same thing as having a conversation with the developer. To Silvana's point, my car was destroyed, parked in front of my house on Edge Hill Street by a speeding car. And this is before the development. My son was hit by a car at the bottom of Mercer Street. The traffic in this part of town is already unmanageable. The council knows that we brayed for 3 years to get a few speed bumps that have done nothing to mitigate the amount of traffic or the speed of the traffic in this neighborhood. But finally, I really want to say that to anyone out there who is accusing this particular community of NIMBYism, I ask you to take a very close look at what the conditions for the affordable units are in this proposal, because we were all very surprised to learn that the affordable housing units sunset at 30 years and revert back to market rate. Somebody at the planning meeting said, well, that's just typically the law, but it gets renegotiated. But why would we trust anyone to stick to that if this is a for-profit development? What assurances do we have that they would renew those leases? You know, it's a completely different game than the Merwick Stanworth community, where they have a relationship with the university to have those units available for community housing in perpetuity. And I say that as somebody who was a previous resident of Princeton Community Housing. I would welcome affordable housing. I would welcome a lot of affordable housing. I think this is a sneaky way to give us some temporary affordable housing in an enormous development that doesn't really address this question of the missing middle. You know, there was an article in Princeton Patch in 2023, October 2023, where the developer states that the market rate for a 2-bedroom apartment in this development with a den, no, I need to finish, please, will go for the low 4,000s by 30%. You know, the standard 30% of what your salary is supposed to go towards rent. That means people are going to have to make $185,000 a year to afford
Carolyn.
a 2-bedroom.
Thank you.
And that's not affordability, Mark.
Thank you, Carol. Okay. Is there anybody else online? Their hand up. Yeah, well, I'm waiting for the screen to, I'm waiting for Adam to, there we go. Okay. Andre?
Hi, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Andre Mikic. I'm at 79 Wheatsheaf Lane. I'm just wondering, in the master plan, you rely on a multiplier to determine how many new students are going to come to town based on these developments, based off of a Rutgers study. And when you compare the forecast, let's say, for the developments that were built at the shopping center, and now you look at the new SLAM forecast from the school board, it's twice as many as that Rutgers study predicts. I'm wondering if that is going to be addressed, because there's this massive gap in what you guys are expecting in terms of new students versus what the school board is expecting. That's becoming very costly. Some of the concerns with the pilot programs for these developments, were the increased enrollment, which were kind of poo-pooed in the presentation in 2018. You described those as myths. Well, those myths are come true. I'm just wondering if that's going to be addressed, as it should be.
All right, we'll get to that as we go along. Is there anything else you want to say at this point?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to people in this room. Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken that wants to speak? Well, yeah, so it's in the agenda packet itself for tonight? Yeah, so if you go to the town website, you could go under calendar, find the council meeting, then there's agenda packet, boom, and, yeah, it's like 300 pages, but you want to, yeah, right after the audit report. You probably want to start about on page 280 or so. Yeah, because you don't want to flip through all those pages. Go right to 280. All right, I'm sorry. Is there anybody else in the room that hasn't spoken that wants to speak on this? Is there anyone else online that hasn't spoken that wants to speak on this? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for council comments, questions, etc. David?
Yeah, I just wanted to address a couple of the specific concerns. This is repeating something that Michelle said in her comments at the beginning, but I really want to try and hammer it home. When people are concerned about added traffic from having more housing in town, the opposite is actually the case. The folks who are complaining about the traffic on, the commenter from Elm Road, or the folks on Edge Hill who are worried about the through traffic, all of that is people passing through Princeton. Some of them are those 28,000 in commuters. Some of them are just through commuters. They don't live here and they don't work here, and they just drive through Princeton. And to the extent that we can provide housing for people who work in Princeton but can't afford to or don't currently live in Princeton, we are going to be reducing traffic, not increasing it. And we also were very careful with the planning to significantly limit the traffic on Hibben. There's only 40 units that actually have a driveway off Hibben. The other 200 units come straight out to Stockton Street. So we were super conscious of keeping most of the traffic out of your neighborhood, keeping it on Stockton Street, where, by the way, there are tens and tens of thousands of cars every day. And to add another 40 or 50 cars in the morning rush hour, which is typically what we see from developments like this, is not even noticeable in terms of the increase in the amount of traffic. So those are a couple points that I think are important to make.
Is there a study of that or something?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, wait, John, I'm sorry. We're not interrupting people while they're talking.
Yes.
Wait, let David finish.
Pardon?
But why don't we just...
Well, I mean, it's part of this.
Okay, you finish your comments, and then you can jump in with yours.
I think that's really all I wanted to say about the traffic issue, but, I'm the only one up here who's been involved with this site since the very beginning. I started on council in 2018 when the first redevelopment attempt happened. I was on the committee that was working. I sadly ended up chairing the committee because my predecessor resigned in the middle. I guess she couldn't take the heat. And I'm very sorry that project didn't get successfully completed, because I think that was an even smarter smart growth, where we were taking students who we knew were living in West Windsor and driving into town every day. So we were essentially, there was no debate that it was a traffic reduction process. But I've been listening to the residents all these 6 years. Every single legitimate concern I have tried to address, as I just did with the traffic concerns. The concern that this is just too big, I've got to say, when we were discussing the projects at the shopping center a couple of years ago, site plans, we had a resident get up and say, she was in the Witherspoon-Jackson neighborhood, and she was deathly opposed to the Avalon project on Witherspoon Street. It's going to destroy our neighborhood. The traffic is going to be horrendous. And she got up and she said, I was wrong. this project has been great for our neighborhood. None of the feared outcomes have materialized, and that's the way these things go. If this gets built, it's going to be a beautiful building. You know, the architect has done a superb job. It's really sensitive, and I did want to say one more thing about because the planner's comment about why the different bulk standards on each of these different sites. Different bulk standards for each site, because each site is different in who their neighbors are and how close you want to allow a building to be next to the neighbor, how tall do you want it to be, how should it step back. If we were to put one set of bulk standards on this entire property, then we would be guilty of planning malpractice. But what we've done is extremely sensitive to the context.
Okay. Eve?
I want to respond specifically to a few of the comments and then make a more general statement. Stormwater management. According to the new state stormwater regulation, stormwater must be kept on site. I don't know if we have all the details of how stormwater management will be done, but the stormwater must by law be kept on site. And our engineers and building inspectors will make sure that that indeed is done. I think we will see an improvement in the area because right now there is no stormwater control at all. And those fields are just like concrete. They are not absorbing any water. So I think in terms of people whose basements are flooding, I think you'll see an improvement. I can only speak for myself on this. I make decisions based on what I think is, actually, I'm going to change that. I'm going to speak for all of us up here. We all make decisions based on what we think is best for the community at large. None of us are in the pocket of quote-unquote developers. The amount of time and energy we give to this job to think that a contribution, which, you know, maybe at the most might be a few $100s, and I personally have not taken money from developers, but some people have because they have friendships and relations with them and they share goals. To insinuate that because we disagree with you, that we do not have the best interests of the town in mind is really distressing. We may just have a different way of seeing things, and that doesn't mean that we are doing the bidding of developers or of anyone other than what we think is in the town's best interest. And it's fine if you disagree with us. I don't object to that. But I do find these attacks and insinuations to be distressing. I want to point out that this is not by any means the highest density in Princeton. According to the plan documents, a lot of different numbers have been thrown around. The density of this plan is 49 units per acre, and I have a cheat sheet here that was shown at some of the previous discussions, and there are a number of developments: the Princeton Shopping Center, 195 Nassau, 40 to 42 Tulane, 21 Wiggins, that are all 30 McLean, that are all substantially higher. And I want to point you all to my favorite example of this, closer to my neighborhood, on Prospect Avenue and Murray. There is a university development that's been there for about 100 years. The density there is 55 units per acre. I have never heard anyone say a word against this development that is so out of scale with anything else in the neighborhood. There is nothing else in that area that has anywhere near 55 units, 55 dwelling units, density per acre. And yet, it has become part of the fabric of our community. So I'm just echoing, David has taken a lot of my points, thanks, David. Exactly the same thing about Avalon Bay on Witherspoon. People were so concerned that it would be, the death of the neighborhood. Most people consider it an asset. I mean, architecturally, I don't really like it, but I think having the building there is, is great. And the hospital had a much, much heavier impact on the neighborhood. You think about ambulances coming night and day. This is a housing development. It doesn't have nearly the impact on the neighborhood. Regarding the speed bumps on Edge Hill and Hibben, we actually have data on that, and the data is that the speed bumps have helped slow traffic and have diverted traffic. The traffic counts are down. So, there unfortunately are not as many tools with Google Maps and people looking for shortcuts as we would like, but we are doing the best we can, and those speed bumps have actually achieved some of what we wanted them to do. I want to go back to the original proposal. As David said, I joined council in 2019, so a year after David, and when many of the neighbors at that time were against what the seminary was doing, I said to them, if this project falls through, what's going to happen? It's not going to be, the seminary has a lifelong involvement with that neighborhood, and we're willing to do things and work for the future of the neighborhood in a way that even a well-inclined developer might not be willing to do. But the neighbors fought that development, and that development did not go ahead. And the seminary sold the property or has a contract to sell the property. And I just want to reiterate what a couple of people have said. If this project does not move ahead, then what we will get is a project that will have the same 80-20 split. It may have a higher density. It would be a builder's remedy under the affordable housing laws. And the safeguards and amenities that my colleagues, Michelle and David and Mia, have worked so hard in the redevelopment plan, such as underground parking, which is extraordinarily expensive, but they did that to protect the sensibilities of the neighbors so that it wouldn't be an enormous parking lot that people were looking at. The open space, there's, I think, 12,500, almost 20% of the site that needs to be open space. Architecture that is sensitive to the area, and as David said, sensitive to the specific place that each building is. A long list of green building design features. We will never get that. I tell you, if this project didn't move forward, you will be sorry. Really, because what we would get is a project that does not have any of the amenities and the safeguards, and instead would be something that would be much more negatively impactful on the town.
Thanks, Eve. Mia?
Eve, I'm just going to give you a chance to clarify those remarks you made about I think individuals in council accepting contributions from developers. I think you meant that certain council members had contributions in there when they ran for office.
That is exactly what I
was
meant.
not one of those, but that is not how it sounded. So if you wanted to
I'm sorry,
rephrase that to clarify, it did sound like you were saying when they're aligned and they're friends, whatever. I think you might want to restate that.
Thank you. I did not prepare that part of my remarks. So running for council can be an expensive effort, and it requires money. And so all of us who have been in competitive races have taken contributions. Some of those contributions may come from people who are also developers. None of those contributions amount to a significant amount of any of the amount that any candidate has raised. As Mia said, I've never taken a contribution from a developer, but that does not mean that I am anti-development or that I don't share the goals of some of the developers that work in town, just as I take contributions from people who are advocates of open space, but I share their goals. Is that sufficiently clarified? Okay.
And I will say, as far as I know, I did not have any contributions from developers, but to be honest, before I was on council, I did not know what a developer was. So, however, I have learned a great deal, and I had for better or worse, was tasked with implementing Princeton's third round settlement, which was signed. It was a piece of paper that was agreed on the meeting before I got onto council. So I have learned a great deal in the last 5 years. So first of all, I want to say, I hear that it's really nice to see everybody in person. So thank you all for coming out rather than over a screen. I hear what we seem to have somewhat be divided into opposite sides of the room, which I think is unfortunate. It increases the divide. But at any rate, I want to say that what I'm hearing from those of you around the neighborhood is that you don't feel that we're listening, you don't feel heard. I want to let you know that I have been taking notes. I have 5 pages of notes here, and I want to address some of the things in my notes, which will be difficult because it's all out of order and I can't read my writing, but I'm going to do my best. And I will also say that I feel somewhat frustrated because I want to share with you some of the harsh realities that constrain what can happen on a site like this. And I feel the same way you do. I feel like you already there's no point in me describing it to you because you're not going to listen, but I'm going to try anyway, and I hope you'll listen. So first I just want to I think Eve, I wanted to correct a few things. Eve, you dealt with the density thing, the 54 units. If you look back at the presentation from, I think it was the second public meeting, that is it's slightly higher than the mid-range, but it is definitely not, as someone said, the highest level of density in Princeton. I'm jumping to the end to Caroline. I do agree with you. I don't think that this project provides many things. It is not likely to provide missing middle housing. However, your point about the deed restrictions, just so you understand, in the third round of Mount Laurel, the deed restricted period was 30 years. Princeton was actually sued over by a local developer and prevailed, which now has become sort of the law on the land, as has the Jacobson methodology. So Princeton taxpayers have actually contributed a lot to various frameworks around the state. At the 30-year mark, it is up to the council, not the developer. So Caroline, it doesn't matter what your relationship is, whether it's the university or whoever it is. We have the option. At the third round, it was 30 years. In the fourth round, which we are starting next year, it will be at the 40-year mark. And at that point, at that time, the council has the opportunity to extend the deed restrictions. So we fully anticipate that will be the case with all the affordable housing that is happening in Princeton. It's sort of a simple procedure, so those units will not be lost. I wanted to, Janet, I don't know if Janet Stern is not here. Thank you for your comments about trees and the tree canopy, which is something I really care a great deal and Janet can attest to the fact that I have chased PSE&G off my lawn when they tried to take down my trees. There will have to obviously be some trees that are more trees than we would like taken off on this site in order to construct the project, but it is a top priority for us to definitely maintain the trees in the right of way and as many mature trees in the site itself as we possibly can. That is something that we, taking the recommendation of the planning board, will be. Oh, Janet, you came back. You missed my appreciation for your comments, but. That is something that, Steve, right, we're going to be sort of locking that into the agreement, right? Steve? You're not paying attention. That's going to be in the tree preservation plan, and that is going to be, there will be some pretty stringent guarantees in the redeveloper agreement, right?
Yeah, obviously that's not before you tonight. What's before you is a redevelopment plan where the recommendation has been to add that as a requirement that any redevelopment agreement have that, and this council would have the level of control over approving how stringent those provisions are, but I would assume based on the comments tonight and from everybody on the dais that they will be.
Okay. So then there was a number of people referenced bad planning. I heard a brilliant physicist opine on bad planning. I heard a famous historian opine on bad planning. I've heard many people tonight who are absolutely brilliant in their careers, which don't happen to be planning, trash the planning on this site. I just wanted to, the planner for this site is Paul Phillips, who's in the audience tonight, and is hands down one of the most respected, renowned, experienced, talented, brilliant planners in the state who has won many, many awards. So just leave that at that. I have heard also the comments about the architecture being cookie cutter, nothing unique. Let's see, there were a lot of really generic, what a generic developer would build. Let's see. A lot of, comments about this being sort of generic. To Eve's point, and I will also tell you that I've spent the last 5 years looking at the pro formas in detail of every single development that's part of our affordable housing, which is more than 1,000 units of housing, and seeing what actually is invested in these projects. And I can just assure you that this is not a generic project by any stretch of the imagination. Everything that is involved in this project, from the underground parking, which is the most expensive way to build parking, it can be as much as $40,000 per stall. We certainly are not able and would never be able to insist on underground parking with any of our affordable housing projects because it would be considered cost generative. The stormwater standards that we are implementing on this site, which far exceed state standards, which we are able to impose because this is being negotiated under the redevelopment statute, would never be agreed to or allowed in a conventional affordable housing development project that goes to court like our other projects. The materials on this site, to the point about the architecture and being generic, we also have the architect here with us tonight, Dee Marchetta, who is considered also to be one of the most renowned architects in the state, who builds very expensive, ornate, elaborate architecture, which ties into the many comments tonight about this being just designed as a handout to the developer, like with monetization in mind. I can tell you that if this developer makes a penny off this project, he'll be lucky. This project, and you can shake your head, but you can look at the numbers. This is a very, very expensive project, and you all in this neighborhood are fortunate that you're getting this and not some of the stuff that was built in other parts in town. And I realize that you think it's too dense, you don't like it, but one of the realities, one of the things we have to learn, and Joe, I know you know this too from being on council, is that we don't deal in the realm of the ideal. We have to deal within the framework of reality of the choices that are open to us and with the possibilities. And let me just explain to you and elaborate on what Eve said. We are at the end of the third round. Princeton has an unmet need. At the point of consolidation, there was the possibility that the governor's office was going to, if we consolidated, forgive us our unmet need. This did not happen. It's unusual for Central Jersey, but we have a vacant land adjustment and an unmet need, which was, as discussed at the planning board, was approximately 195 units. We've gotten it down somewhat. This site represents a change of circumstance. You can look at Fair Share's letter in today's packet, which goes into all the case law related to the change of circumstance and the unmet need, and the RDP. The seminary site becoming available represents a change of circumstance, which increases our RDP, which allows us to reduce our unmet need. So this will be 48 units reduced from the 195 units. If this density is not built where it is, and the neighbors should know, it's not that it's not going to be built, it will be built in someone else's neighborhood other than yours. And there aren't a lot of places, which is why the borough was given the vacant land adjustment prior to consolidation. I know what it's like to have a lot of density built around you because I live next to the Princeton Shopping Center. That is not what is being planned here. I understand that you would prefer for it to be less dense. The reality is, for the developer to build a project like this, with all of the green spaces, which are made possible because of the underground parking, with all of the bells and whistles and the expensive architecture, it requires that level of density to afford that. That is just, these are the economic realities. To the point about the 20% and the 80%, I think, Charles, you talked about, well, this is 80% unaffordable. The reality, this is the economics of the production of housing in New Jersey at this time. Inclusionary housing means that the developer is paying to construct and to maintain those 20%. It is incredibly expensive to build housing. If the developer does not build those 48 units, guess who builds them? Guess who pays for them? You, through your taxpayer contributions. That's the reality. There are no other options. Either we have an amazing, Ed Truselli is here tonight, Princeton Community Housing, which my grandmother helped to found, is unique in the state of New Jersey in that it has managed to build a great deal through contributions from Princeton residents who care, as do all of you, about affordable housing. And I absolutely believe that you all care about affordable housing and you're not trying to fight it. But this is the reality of what we're faced with. And either the developer builds it or we build it as a town through taxpayer contributions, which contributes to the bifurcation of the town into very wealthy people who can afford elevated taxes to underwrite municipally sponsored subsidized housing. And then you have what I think Sheldon often refers to as the golden ghetto effect, or, so that's the reality that we as a council face. Would we like to have a different situation? Is it easy for us? You know, I mean, we would, it's hard to see our constituents feeling upset and unheard, but I will say this project has gone on. There is nothing abbreviated. This has gone on and for 7 years now. And I will say, I personally do not want my successors to inherit this mess. I feel like I came on, I wish that this had been resolved before I got on council. It is the responsible thing, especially going into the fourth round. You can lawyer up and fight off the council, and you are leaving yourself wide open in the fourth round with no protection to a national company that's going to come in with lawyers, with the court behind them, and you will undercut our ability as a council to negotiate for you all of the things that we have. Those are the choices here. There's nothing else. I think we're not supposed to have a back and forth, but
We're not going back and forth. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Once you finish your comments,
yeah.
and we'll get the rest
So,
of the council.
Karen, I know, so I was going to ask our attorney to, I know that you have referenced Frank Reagan's statement and a number of times, and I just do want to say that this neighborhood has had more interaction and more input into this entire process than which community meetings? Okay. Okay.
No,
I'm not being allowed to take,
No,
but
we're
I'm
going to agree
happy-
to disagree on that
Okay.
one, fine, but let's just
Well, so,
let's,
okay.
No,
Steve,
let's
do you
just-
want to, no?
let's not get into debate of each point. Let's just, once you
Okay.
finish your replies, so the rest of the council can jump in.
Okay, so let me see if there's anything. Okay, clear cutting, I just wanted to mention, the word clear cutting really is a word that's used for forests. This was not a forest. It is a site that has been developed for so long. It predates Princeton's zoning code. When the zoning code came into being, it actually just reflected what was there. You know, there's a lot of parking there. There were big buildings. Let me just see. Jenny, I hope that's a new dog that you got. That was a very cute dog you had when you're. Jenny mentioned that she thought that nobody was interested in building for sale units. That is actually not accurate. The reason why the fourth round now does not, of the Mount Laurel framework, does not give bonus credits for rentals is because the market is so flooded with them. So there now will be the opportunity to create more for sale units, and there is actually tremendous interest in Princeton by developers who are looking at the fourth round and want to build condos for sale. And you see that what's happening with the 30 units of housing that are being built adjacent to the Alice, which are all for sale. That was a Barsky, now it's Toll project. All right, let me just see if there's anything else here. Yeah, I guess the main thing is I hear what you're saying, but I'm concerned that this is going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy, and what you will end up with, absent this, is in court with everything that we have worked really hard to negotiate from the developer, and in a court process, it is considered cost generative. So that is, we have done the best we can to extract as many concessions as possible from the developer, and it is not over. I mean, this is just the beginning. There is, just the redevelopment plan is the zoning. It is not the equivalent of site plan. And Rob Simon, I see you smiling. The comments that you made, I care about my constituents. I hope you know more and better than what you expressed, because they deserve to have a competent lawyer representing them. and what you said was inaccurate. And I hope that you will give them competent representation that they deserve. So I'll leave it at that.
Leticia.
So I am going to be very, very brief. I just wanted to respond to a comment during public comment where it was suggested that we don't need to build affordable housing that we are not required to build. And it's just my personal belief that mandate or no mandate, I believe in advancing policies that promote the creation of more affordable housing. And that goes beyond meeting mandates. And I am in favor of moving forward with approving this development, which reflects our fundamental responsibility to ensure that everyone in our community has access to safe, affordable homes. It is not just a legal requirement, but a moral imperative to support our neighbors and foster a more inclusive and equitable society. Brief.
Thank you. Layton.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to make a statement, and I want to preface this by saying, to the extent that I can, I am not speaking as Councilman Layton Newland, but as a concerned citizen born and raised here in Princeton, a dedicated Democrat, and someone who cares deeply about our present and our future. My role as an elected official does not diminish my right or my responsibility to continue advocating for our community. Today, as we strive to build Princeton through smart growth and wise choices, I must call out the actions of individuals and hastily organized boutique groups seemingly intent on dismantling and undermining the good work we have achieved. One of the most critical and devastating issues we face as Democrats is affordable housing. Many Democrats profess support for affordable housing until it encroaches upon their own neighborhoods. The not in my backyard mentality here in Princeton is rampant. We are seeing individuals and groups attend our zoning and planning meetings, file lawsuits against the town, and use arguments about density, character, and architectural history in many situations to stymie or halt progress and prevent inclusivity through inclusionary and mixed income housing. We have been criticized for using pilot agreements to meet our affordable housing commitment, yet these agreements are essential to fulfill our legal obligation ordered by the court. In a predominantly Democratic town, it is disheartening and infuriating to see our party's unity being splintered from within. This internal strife mirrors the national malaise and trajectory where our unity is under attack in so many ways. The good we have achieved is under siege, and more attention should be paid to recent decisions right here in Princeton that seem to favor voices resistant to change simply because they believe things are fine as they are and Princeton doesn't need and shouldn't make room for more people. To those perpetrating this detrimental behavior, I offer a stern rebuke. Your actions are not only counterproductive, but also harmful to the progress we have worked so hard to achieve. It is time to wake up and realize that we are in the fight of our lives, both nationally and locally. As a council member, I have tried to maintain the balance between being a community activist and being community active. Now more than ever, I must get into some good trouble. This message is a wake-up call. It's late in the game, and we cannot afford to be divided. Our unity is our strength, and we must come together to continue building a more inclusive, equitable, and vibrant Princeton. To those in our party masquerading as Democrats, I hope you feel this message personally. The time for complacency is over. Let us move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to the values we all profess to hold dear. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, are we, sorry.
Just to tie up a couple of loose ends, I think on the tree plan, I think we're going to have to amend the motion before we go to a vote. But before that, I want to just commit, Janet, thank you for coming. You know, I'm the liaison to the Shade Tree Commission. I know our arborist will do an evaluation each and every tree. We will have a tree plan, and it will be part of the process. So I commit that there will absolutely be a tree plan for replanting what needs to be taken down, to evaluate what is viable and not viable on the site, and absolutely to retain as much all the right-of-way trees. My understanding is they're included, but we'll have a tree plan, and I just wanted to commit to that. And then we'll also be doing a traffic study. And as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, we are investing in our municipal transit. We are investing in our bike lanes and shared path. We are working on solving these issues, and we have listened, not just tonight, but we've listened all along, and there have been community meetings where we did take this input and made them major priorities as we move forward. So I just wanted to ask if, Steve, if you just can one more time maybe reiterate for the record what our next step would be and what we'll do about the tree plan and traffic studies, because they seemed that they really rose to the top.
Sure. So if this were to be adopted tonight, the next step would be to negotiate a redevelopment agreement with the redeveloper that you would like to designate for the property, and that agreement would cover all aspects of the proposed development, obviously ensuring that it complies with the plan you're about to adopt, but also going into the nitty-gritty details of the project schedule, when it's going to start, when it's going to end, what approvals are needed, how the redeveloper cannot transfer elements of the project without your approval. But it will also go into some of the things that you just talked about, and obviously you've just raised it as a major concern for the council, which would be obviously a tree preservation plan and the details around that, the affordable housing and what deed needs to go in the deed restrictions, as well as a traffic study before going to site plan.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We are going to vote momentarily. Your opinions are always appreciated. I feel very strongly that that's a critical part of our process. And it's always concerning when people feel that they weren't heard, and I think it's something that we need to keep in mind, and if we need to work harder on our process going forward, we should keep that in mind. And many of the details people are concerned about, as Steve just alluded to and as Michelle pointed out, will really happen at site plan review. So there's a lot more still to happen and a lot more decisions to be made. So anyway, thank you for your participation this evening. So it's been moved and seconded, and we close the public hearing.
Mayor,
I think we have
Mayor,
to amend the, I think.
Yeah,
we
Mayor,
have to
may I
add
suggest
the
what the
amendment.
Yeah.
So,
No, sometimes if I, I'm sorry, the public hearing's finished. The public hearing's finished. I'm
Public
sorry.
hearing's closed.
I'm sorry. Yeah, again, those details remain to be finalized. Anyway.
Okay.
That could be discussed at that's not the
That's a
topic
future-
of the
that's-
site
that's a
plan. That's a
future-
future meeting,
Future
which we'd
meeting.
be happy to discuss that.
Mark, Leticia moved it, so I think she would need to amend, no?
No, okay. Sometimes if you'll let me finish, I'll get
I'm
to where
sorry,
you're
Mike.
trying to get
I
me,
thought
but
you were looking
sometimes
at
you
me
need
to
to
do
actually
it.
let me finish talking. Oh, my God. Okay, so if we want to go back to the person that made the motion and the seconder, if the mover wants to add the sentence that was referred to in the presentation earlier, you may do
Yes.
so.
So I've moved to amend, and do you want to repeat what that?
Yeah, I would suggest for the ordinance, three items. One is just to note for the record that because the planning board has met, just a clerical amendment identifying the meeting and what the result of that meeting by the planning board was. Two, the recommendation based off of what the planning board recommended by Mr. Kyle to require in the redevelopment plan that the redevelopment agreement include a tree preservation plan. And the third is just something that came out of the public comment tonight, which is, a function of the public comment, in which there was a comment that it wasn't clear that the zoning map is going to be amended, which is, of course, a result of the redevelopment plan being adopted inherent. So I would try to remove that ambiguity and make clear in the ordinance that the zoning map would, of course, be a result of this being amended.
Okay. I think I see Trishka capturing that, or were you not?
I'll take care
Okay,
of that.
you'll be capturing, okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
Trishka's out of this one. Right.
Great.
Okay, so you're okay as the mover?
Yes.
I forget who seconded that?
I second it.
And you're good?
I'm good.
All right,
Thank
so we're all, just make sure all the council members are good, no questions on the addition? Roll call vote?
Ms. Perone Lambros.
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Ms. Sachs.
Yes.
Ms. Fraga.
Yes.
Mr. Newland.
Yes.
Carried.
Thank you. Thank you all. Next up is an ordinance introduction. 2024-31, an ordinance of the municipality of Princeton changing the name of the Advisory Committee on Affordable Housing, Human Services, and Racial, Social, and Economic Equity to the Committee on Affordable Housing, Racial, Economic, Social Equity, and Services, AKA the CARES Advisory Committee, and amending the Code of the Borough of Princeton, New Jersey, 1974. The public hearing will be August 12th, 2024. Is there a motion on that? Thank you, Leticia. Layton's got the second, and that's a roll call vote.
Ms. Perone Lambros.
Yes.
Ms. Niedergang.
Yes.
Mr. Cohen.
Yes.
Ms. Sachs. Yes. Ms. Fraga.
Yes.
Mr. Newland.
Yes.
Carried.
Resolutions 24226, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton approving police promotions for 2024. Leticia's got the motion. Eve's got the second. Questions or comments? Michelle?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I mean, we're really going to miss Chief Bukhari. He's just been phenomenal. But I have to say that we're going to be in great hands, I believe, with with the new Chief Tash. His interview, I had the honor to be part of the interview panel because I'm on public safety. And, all the candidates did a great job. Our department is really strong, and it was really impressive. So I just want to share that with my colleagues and the public.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
24227, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing matching funds in the amount of $103,450 for the improvement of Smoyer Park and submittal of Mercer at Play grant application for $103,450. Michelle has the motion. Eve's got the second. Questions or comments? Eve?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Let Michelle go first, if you don't mind.
Real quick, because this is department, I just wanted to let you know that this playground equipment, this is the extra money that we still had from Mercer at Play grants. It's a matching grant, so we have to put up the match. We're going to do the same type of adaptive playground that we did at Hilltop, which is super exciting.
It's going to be great.
We can do that all over town as soon as we do new. So it's really great. That's it.
And I just wanted to say, I'm so pleased that this is going forward, that what was put in at Hilltop has been such a great success, and that we are modeling inclusion at all different levels. So really appreciate this. And thank you, Michelle, for your work with the Rec Commission.
Any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 24228, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing extension of grace period for the payment of third quarter 2024 property taxes. I believe we've now extending that to August 23rd based on the computer glitches earlier, the last several days. Layton's got the motion. Is there a second? David, thank you. Questions or comments? Great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
24229, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton amending a professional services agreement to update the name of the law firm appointed to serve as municipal prosecutor in 2024. If someone, Layton, thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Michelle. Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
24230, resolution of the mayor and council authorizing the award of a bid contract to CCM Contracting, Inc. for 2024 roadway resurfacing for $1,778,576.20. Eve's got the motion. David's got the second. Questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
24231, resolution of the mayor and council of Princeton authorizing the donation of surplus personal property no longer needed for public use to the 9/11 Fund, Inc. Leticia's got the motion. Michelle's got the second. Questions or comments?
Just to say, sorry, you didn't acknowledge.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Just to say thank you to Frank, our new chief, who, this is just a great thing to do. I think we've done it before in the past, but, just to continue this and to, jump in the second or third week on the job and identify this is really great. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Other questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 The consent agenda, which is the only item, is payment of bills and claims. If somebody wants to move that. Thank you, Eve. Is there a second? Thank you, Michelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
David has a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There you go. Eve's got the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done. Goodbye. Good